Hello, I'm Eagle Gardens one on Instagram, and this is fucking talking shit with Eagle, episode 830. Man, what a great night ahead of us this evening. Uh, Mr. Dutch Blooms, how you doing, my friend? It has been a minute since we've got to sit down and do a one-on-one. Hopefully, you're doing well, my friend.
I'm doing good, man. Thank you so much for connecting with me and inviting me to spend some time together. It's a great time of year to catch up, in the winter months.
Right on. You were episode 268. We're now up to 830, and that's with a bunch of
Ooh.
pauses in between. Uh, yeah, it's a pleasure to be able to catch up with you once again. You've kind of been busy. I mean, if I remember right, last time it was December. We were just short of your birthday, just had a son, just had a couple of products introduced into the California market, and life seemed to be treating you pretty well. So I guess that's a good starting point. How
Yeah,
things been?
good, man. Well, that it has been a minute. Then I have a son. He's 7 now, and I have a daughter that is 3. And you nailed it. Thank you for remembering. I'm honored. My birthday is in December 22nd, and my daughter's is the 30th of December. And then my wife's is the 15th of January coming up. And then my son's is the 21st of January. So we're like birthday, Christmas, New Year's, a palooza, celebration time for us. So it's a real fun time of year. And it's also a tiring time of year too, you know.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is a great time of year. So you've been pretty busy. What's new? I mean, I recently ran into you at the Sun Grown Cup here in Michigan, which was an honor to run into you and actually get to meet you and shake your hand, firsthand. So that was
Yeah.
an honor for me, anyways, just to get that. I can't believe I literally messed up and didn't get that photo op, to be honest with you. I kind of
Uh,
came up a little bit after the fact, but it is.
it's weird at those events. You get going, and then next thing you know, you're just like, "Whoa!" I said hi to so many people, but I didn't. We didn't get a chance to sit down and fucking. It's just how it is. So, but yeah, dude, I have been really busy. Shoot, I've been doing a lot of breeding, a lot of genetic sifting. Has been the big focus of what I've been doing, and I would say with I've followed the trend, sort of say, and kind of put a little more attention towards making hash yielding specific cultivars. Um, I've had a history in making hash, for a minute. And in fact, I was one of the first hash rosin producers here in Washington when it first came on. When we were using hair straighteners and everything, we were selling it in the medical market with hair straighteners. So ridiculous when you think about it.
We definitely have came a long, long way with all the hash, that's for sure. Uh, but it's awesome that you're moving forth like that and helping in another way push the hash market forward. Uh, yeah. So what type of cultivars are you working for? And well, I guess that when you look at or call a hash strain, what are some of the things that you're necessarily looking for? Is it terpene profile, trichome?
It's mostly the yield. Really is the deal, and in certain plants, and really it's with the trends and culture that we've been dealing with right now. Right now we're in terms of solventless extract, we're predominantly as a cannabis community, we're predominantly doing water extraction and then sieving that, drying it usually with the freeze dryer and pressing it into rosin. That's like I would say 90-95% of the solventless market is that. And so that's kind of what I say in short is that I'm looking for cultivars that will yield well under those parameters, and so to be specific, they tend to be ones that are less greasy. Like if you've just kind of, you're aware that some plants are greasier and wetter. and then some plants are a little bit more sandy. I'm sure you've noticed that when you go to touch them, it's almost like you have this greasy sandy thing, and you could feel the little granule, and those ones that are more granule tend to produce hash better, meaning that those trichomes hold together better, and they're more stable, those heads, and they're able to be knocked off and sieved, where the greasy stuff kind of goes out in the water, and so it's better for smoking and flower. And we're I feel like we're, kind of, to take a side tangent, we're about to take a new step into solventless hash, and we're gonna, with this plasma electrostatic sifting machines that are coming out, I think we're going to see more people getting into that, and we're going to see the ability to get good yields up those greasier cultivars, because as you let them dry over time, especially over a longer period of time, 30 days or 90 days plus, those greasy trichomes can kind of wax and solidify, and then you'll be able to extract them in a dry sip method fairly well. And so I don't know if that's a good answer, if that makes sense, what I, what.
It does, but I'm interested in like something like that, the hydrostatic. I'm not so privy to the exact hot process of that, but I know a while back ago, I was talking with Indra and a few other of my hash making friends there, and we were talking about more like a frequency, vibrating it, basically off the plant, and it being, particular to whatever cultivar, you know what I mean? Size, head, just find that sweet spot. But for me, cannabis is still very much a medicine. And and a lot of these extract methods, I feel like we lose, a little bit along the way. So if there's any way possible, like a method like this, that we can retain as much as possible in the start process, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, man, and I that's very astute, and only a true medical patient, for whatever that means, someone who's really using it in that way would discern that, because I feel the same way in terms of whole body wellness. I'm a medical patient as well. I have some severe back pain. Is my kind of leap into cannabis, and what drives me. For instance, I've been up since 3 o'clock because my back was hurting. You know what I mean? I just couldn't sleep last night. That's a pretty common thing for me. But to get to the point, like, I find that consuming in flower form, whole plant form, for me, I like the doobies. Some people like ripping bongs and stuff. That feels a lot better on my whole body, my whole stasis. It calms me down. It sits me down where I can sit down and rip. I still have a bunch of these samples from the sun-grown cup, and I can rip rosin after rosin after rosin. And I'm high for sure, but it's almost like a jittery high that doesn't calm me down, you know? And I felt like, even when I was judging, I'd ripped 30, 40 dabs in a row, sitting down there over 6 hours or whatever. And I was like, okay, I need to go to bed. Let me go smoke a joint. It was the first thing I wanted to do so I could go to bed. And people be like, what the fuck, dude? Like, aren't you high enough? Like, yeah, I'm high, bro, but I need to calm down right now. And the weed will help me do that. And so I've observed, when it comes to hash, that full melt, meaning not pressed into rosin, where you can extract such a high quality in the water hash and or in the dry sift, that you can isolate those heads and have that melt without the residue. That is as closer to the feeling that I get with flour. When you extract it with the rosin and press the oil out of the heads, it becomes more racy to me in my body, more anxious almost, more, and also a shorter lived experience. It's like up and down, this real quick, sharp, aggressive, almost druggy type thing. You know what I mean? Like, versus plant medicine. I don't know. Maybe I'm being critical, but you kind of said that. I know other people have said the same thing, so I think it's worth, you know,
Oh, I 100% think you're onto something. I mean, not only that, I mean, we're changing it. We've added a little bit of heat to it. You know what I mean? It's not the same molecule as started in the flower. We worked it a little bit. We've taken out a little bit of this. I appreciate a good dry sift, water hash. That's always been good to me. The more we walk it down, I think the more we lose the medicine 100%,
I mean, even in the water, to that point, the water tastes good if you drink the water. You got a good organic practices, no pesticides. Taste that water; it's delicious. Often it tastes similar to the flower, and I'll drink it. It's so it's on a hot day I'll go outside and but you're losing something in there. If I'm tasting it in the water, it's not no longer with the thing that I'm consuming, and so it's reduced. And people don't notice that because you're also concentrating at the same time. So it's you don't catch what's lost, and that part is we don't know what it is. You know what I mean? We're not there yet.
Do you think I've read Cannabis for Chronic Pain's a great book. And in that book there they talk about we don't use cannabis. We're not using cannabis properly as a medicine. Uh it's better and more so in the raw form. Again, the more we do to it, the more we take away from it. So do you think that as we try to breed for I think the more we breed for higher THC, to be honest with you, or with more we select for, uh, we're taking other way things away from the plant, or other things, other functions it could have. Like I don't think they don't carry as much as like the fats, the lipids, the esters that yesterday's weed carried just because it was a lower THC. The plant was able to, put it into other processes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and all sorts of stuff, other cannabinoids that we are just still discovering new cannabinoids. Um, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of us who have been smoking weed for over 15 years can remember that there was these basic weeds, basic flowers that had crazy potent effects. Like my first time that I got high, it was out of this world experience. You know what I mean? I was borderline tripping. I was up in the mountains and I had a lot of experiences that were really intense and there obviously we develop a potency and an ability to tolerate that thing, but um going I about 2 years ago, maybe it was last year, I did some work with the Death Star stuff, and when I got to pull that down, it was like woo, like and I consume a lot of cannabis, and my wife does as well, but we both kind of like we're like, let's not drive right now. Like like I'm really really high and we have kids and like let's not drive right now, like like usually we're pretty chill and it's no big deal, but it affected us, and it kept affecting us. I must have burned 2 or 3 pounds of it over the course of a month or so, month or two, and it didn't seem to have a ceiling to it. It was very pleasant, clear. It just is not like a lot of the weed that's going around now, and so that's one thing I actually like about this root beer stuff that from Mean Gene from Mendocino. I've been working with it for a couple of years, and it just has such a clear, bright, heady, potent, stony. I can take it as far as I want to take it, type thing. I find myself the past 4 months I've just been really smoking on some of this stuff. Just really stoned, man. It's just the best I could say. Just really stoned in the morning and enjoying it. Just and I don't know what the tests are on it. You know what I mean? But it's the quality that is the same as this old school thing, and it's kind of this unknown, or.
So, what are some of the things that have caught your eye? I mean, it's late with some of the breeding.
I mean, the stuff that I like is kind of just what I was saying. People going into the older stuff. Bob Hemphill got into the puck work, and that stuff had a really good high to it as well. And he did a cool cross that I grabbed, and actually Kevin Jodry grabbed too. A bunch of people grabbed the red lead puck and moved forward with. And that was a really interesting one. The Death Star is really fun. Um, I like how people are getting back into, even, Sour D's been like the talk of the town for the last 6 months, or so. Um, but it's for a reason. These things haven't gone away for a reason. Even as simple as, I just recently got animal cookies and Girl Scout Thin Mints cut, and I'm enjoying that. Those have a good potency to them before they got like smashed around too much. By the time we got into the gelatos and into some of the trops and all the stuff, that the purple weeds just kind of don't hit the same. I don't know if I can say blanket purple weed doesn't hit the same, but I kind of want to say that.
Oh, I think it's safe to say that as a blanket term, the
Yeah.
purples, they don't hit with me as well either. And which kind of brings me to another thing. Um, I've been blessed to judge a few of these competitions, few of these cups last year, and
You like that move, blue puffy to blue puffy?
it's nice. Warm, I bet. I've seen some of the purple weed really dominate, what a lot of the samples that I've seen. So, is there something really? Because, like we're saying, it doesn't hit hard. So, is it just, uh, are they breeding it in for, trendy aesthetic purposes, or is there something underlying that me and you are
I
missing?
think it. I think it's well. This is my 2 cents, and I was, I when I judged the Sun Grown Cup, I had the same realization that most of the stuff was, and I'm right now. I'm just speaking in terms of the rosin categories. I'm looking at them right in front of me on my desk. Um, Everything was really in that trop papaya, guava, Skittles venue, um, and it's all really good, right? It's like very very, whoa, what weed tastes like that? Like so cool. And but there was a handful of things like maybe under 10% that were into, some of them were gas, some of them were putrid. There was a GMO in there, maybe a bicket in there. Um, there was an OG Kush in there, and I really enjoyed those. And when I went and they didn't win. And when I went back and looked at it, the ones that won obviously were these fruity dominant ones. So I went back and looked at my notes, compared them to everybody else's after the thing was all said and done, because I was kind of scratching my head on it. And it's sure as shit, I voted for the same thing as everybody else. Like the judges were really in line with their judging, and I was in line with it, even though in my head I was going, I prefer the GMO in the gas, right? But I still voted for that. We still voted for the same top 3 or 4 fruity ones. And I was like, so I went back and smoked them all, and I've kind of like been thinking about it for the last 6 or 7 weeks, whatever, since that was. And my conclusion is that fucking grape is the number one blunt flavor in America. Strawberry is the number 2, right? Bubblicious, like, you know what I mean? Like, even though if those aren't the most exquisite things you'd see at the most fancy restaurant, you're not going to see a grape flavored anything, like bubbly grape, fake grape, or whatever. But like, those are such loud flavors. And when you're comparing things at a table, you're like, man, do you want a fucking grape slushy? Do you want uh, blue cheese mushroom, a corn on the cob, you know, or strawberry sherbet? And someone's got to taste all those together. They're going to go, man, I want the fruity thing. I want the sherbet. I want the slushy. And it's just because that's how we are. Like, I think it's in our DNA to go after those sugary things, because they're high caloric. You know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe that's a little too much of a stretch, but that's where I kind of was thinking that how this happens, because they just are so goddamn loud and you can't deny it.
Right. I can't get over a lot of the fruit flavors. You know what I mean? For me, anymore, I've seen so much of the fruity, in particular the orange. You know what I mean? That orange profile, which seems to come a lot with the trop. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Purple side of things, people are trying to breed in there. But I like the ones that always stood out, man. There was, some like licorice menthol that hit me really nice, and but I was kind of surprised too that the fruity had won because they were the ones that I had mental note, the ones that stuck out like that. I thought were kind of the standout winners to me. I was a little surprised for the fruity too.
yeah. I mean, it's. I think that too. You're coming from an experienced palate, is part of it, and when people get a chance to sit with weed, they sometimes change their mind about what they like. If you have a handful of bags and you start smoking them, you're like, man, that one that I liked really at first, it was super bright and fruity, but man, uh, the other one over here really gets me stoned. It's got this little gassy thing that's like, I just kind of really want to have it some more. You know what I mean?
That's one thing I did notice about a lot of that sun grown weed was man, it hit me hard. Uh I took a lot of weed naps through that rush to complete that kit there. 100% to where, man, I think if that would have been indoor weed, I could have like very much flew through with a lot less naps. But there was times, man, when I was like, really, I'm done. Take five, I'll be back. But what do you think it brings that out? And is it the organics in that part of it? Is it actually something that the sun's bringing there?
I think a little of both. I mean, my preference is greenhouse in with connected to the soil, like with a living soil bed that is not in a pot or anything, a bed, some sort of bed like that actually connects to the ground and has supplemental control. Like where you have some of that tech from the indoor. Um, and some of the people that are on the far end of organics really don't. They cringe when they hear me say that because there's energy consumption, and it's not completely natural. But I don't know. I'm just going off my own personal desires, and I've been lucky enough to grow the same cultivars with the same soil right next to each other, and go, man. I don't know. Time and time again, I just like this one with the plastic over it better. But it does have to have that connected. So I don't know what the answer is really. There's something about the living soil for sure. I think that's I feel confident to say that if you're not growing in living soil and doing it right, like there you have to have that caveat, not just we tried it once and it didn't work out. Like there's a science to it and there's an art to it, just like anything else. And I think that it can't be beat, and then when you do that indoors, it's really good. But when you do it outdoors in the greenhouse or directly outdoors, it's got this extra thing, that I do agree is better, in a lot of ways, and in effect and experience. And do you grow outdoors there?
No, maybe this coming year. I've always been a mainly indoor grower myself. Um, But I want to talk or ask you about in the bed thing. We've been talking a little bit more in organics around here. Of course, Mr. Smiley's always been, trying to talk the organics talk and walk it around here as well. But uh, Carlton, the Pharmacy Seed Network, kind of talked me into doing an extra organics thing around here. So we've been talking a little bit more about organics, which anytime it's more of a panel thing, anytime you want to jump in and, talk with us and school us on some shit on that, you're more than welcome. But
I'd love to learn. Smiley's got some things to teach, bro. That guy grows some good weed.
It sure does. So what we were kind of talking about with the organics was a depth layer, or I was asking, how is it, what is the sweet spot for like a bed? You know what I mean? Because another thing I noted is I kind of skimmed through our interview earlier. Um, you noted mulch and keeping a constant moisture level in the soil, which that's where I think a lot of people that are trying the organics system struggle with. Finding that sweet spot for the plant, the microorganisms, the bacteria, the fungi, everything. You know what I mean? So is there a sweet spot, a depth there that helps that moisture stay moist where you're not too wet?
Yeah, it's basically this, as you reduce down in size of container, let's say, earth being the biggest, it gets more challenging, especially when you're dealing with living soil. It's a lot easier to grow a really good plant in a small pot synthetically than it is organically or with a live living soil. Um, because the nailing the water moisture is the hardest part, and too wet and too dry is a big problem. It's really is the Goldilocks, just right thing. And so when you have a bigger container, it's like a fish bowl. I don't know if you ever kept fish. It's kind of the same thing. When you have a small container and the water, whatever the container is, you put a drop of water in it, it has so much effect. You open up and make a big container and you put that same drop in there, it has less effect because it's diluted, right? Because there's more in there. And it's the same way with the moisture in the soil beds and with the nutrients in the soil beds. The bigger it is, the more room the plants can search out and find moisture. And if they get a little bit too wet here, they can kind of move over and lean on these ones over here and let those roots die out. But as you move down in pot size, it's a common that you'll hear people on the internet say that 15 gallons is the minimum to do living soil, or 20 gallons or something like that. And it's like, yeah, you could do it in 1 gallon. You can do it in any of these things. It's just difficult, like, and this time of year, I often am in pots for my mothers, and it's more challenging to me. I have to be on my game every day with these plants versus when they're in the beds. I literally do everything that I'm doing is in preparation and testing the soil, making sure all the nutrients are there, making sure that I have a proper mulch layer, making sure that I have a proper irrigation system that can hold the soil moisture. And then I put the plants in, and I'm done. Other than de-leafing and plant care, I'm not watering, I'm not worrying about that. Well, versus when they're in the pots, right now I have plants that are just slightly overwatered, and I'm like, damn it, dude, and so now I have to, because they're overwatered, I have to let them dry out a lot, because I have to get that core of the plant, the pot, dried out. So I have to over dry them out, and then I have to rehydrate them and give some more molasses or something to reinvigorate the microbes. And I've lost time in all that whole process, right? So it's kind of like I just kind of because it's hard. And that, you know what I mean? I feel like the better you get at gardening, the better you are a water. That's one of the biggest challenging in being a gardener is watering.
I agree 100%. 100%. And it's nice to hear that from somebody like yourself that it is harder to scale down a little bit because that's where everybody here are
Right.
starting. You know what
Right.
I mean?
Everyone's starting in these pots and they're going, I don't get it. It's not working. And it's like, well, dude, it's really fucking hard. Like, I always just encourage people, like, if you're growing in a 4x4 tent, fill it up with dirt. You know, you don't got to buy a fancy bed or whatever. You can go get scrap wood. You can do all sorts of interesting things to just put dirt in there. And people don't, I shouldn't say dirt, soil, but Just I even have no problem going down and buying 707 root 707, loading it up in a bed, and then getting the grow going and amending as I'm going. But I was one thing I do want to add, just for I use this as a tool, and for folks that are learning out, especially, like, there's moisture meters that are made. There's different ones. I really like the blue mat ones, just because they're relatively cheap and they work really well. But they'll give you a reading on what the soil moisture is, and then you can, press that button, look at it, and make choices from there. And then you can also learn too. If you got it, you're growing in 15-gallon pots, and you use the soil moisture meter, and you're like lifting it up and kind of getting to know the weight of what that should feel like. You can make those choices, along with reading the plants. Um, that's kind of how I figure it out. But then again, I can get myself into trouble, and it's often out of laziness. You know what I mean? It's because I came rushing in to do a watering, and I know that I had touched one plant and it needed some water, and then touched another one over here and needed some water, but I didn't go back and touch the ones way in the middle. You know what I mean? And then so maybe it didn't need water, but I hit it anyways, and I've given it too much water. Um, yeah.
Are things with the organic stuff? Are you still putting together any kind of classes or anything like that as far as actually teaching the organics?
I've you know, I've been sitting on my hands trying to figure out what I want to do with that. There's been a lot of events going on, and I feel like I'm nervous to spread myself thin in there and like get in the mix and like not have a successful event because I didn't have a big enough pull. Um, and so, but at the same time, I really miss the gatherings, and I really miss the information share. And so I've kind of got it in my head that I want to start doing events here on my property, maybe more low key and regional stuff. I really like when I would go out to Michigan. It's such a good time. I love the community there, at the Sun Grown Cup, and then when we've done the regen conferences, it's just been awesome. And we don't have that in Washington. We don't have like a community like that. We don't have as big of even though we in a lot of ways we have all the, we get genetics from California maybe faster or whatever, you know what I mean? We're on the West Coast, but in community and stuff, we don't have as much. And so I'm kind of like to push that here and maybe do some classes here, and um, I'm also working on doing some podcast episodes, where I'm trying to, direct folks to my Patreon so I can get that $5 a month and kind of distribute my genetics through there, my clones, and do some education that way, where I can bring some of the folks that I've worked with in the conferences and different folks that I've met and try to do, more focused education, series. Maybe I do a series with Steve on Potentics, on Aquaponics, and stuff like that, where it can be accessible to folks. And that's kind of where my head is on that end of things.
Right on. Is Patreon open? That link is in the description, by the way. Um,
No.
have they opened up a little bit over there? The first time I tried anything with some seeds, they were like they pulled it on me. They gave me a little yeah, no, and then I haven't necessarily tried anymore. So have they loosened up a little bit over there as far as cannabis goes?
Well, I haven't tried to sell any seeds through it, or anything directly like that. Basically using it as a filter because I kept losing my Instagram account every time I'd post anything about, seeds for sale or genetics or anything in remotely like that. I was getting flagged. And so I thought this would be my way to be able to communicate with the people that are interested, and whoever is interested in flagging probably isn't going to pay $5 to do so. That was my basic thought, and so the plan is to release a code that folks can use that to then go back to my website and access with the codes it's kind of a jump around bullshit game. But it like I lost my Instagram account for almost a year, and it really hurt the finances. You know, my seed sales, like my little haters were successful, so they can feel good about that.
That is super. That's a sad subject right there as well. And
Yeah,
I
I'm
face
not the only one. You
here
know.
with YouTube and Instagram over the years on how many forums accounts I've lost, from forums just being shut down and stuff like that. And it's heartbreaking. This is work. We put a lot of work into these accounts, all the stuff, and it when one of them goes down, that stinks. So yeah, it's kind of nice, and I guess it's sad, nice and sad. You're making it work, but you're making it.
Yeah, and so yeah, that like it makes sense to me, the concept, of Instagram, we're being paid by sponsors to be there, right? So someone's getting paid to be there. It's not coming into our pockets or anything. Um, but you know, for the people that are interested in what we're doing, it's like we can sponsor it ourselves. You know what I mean? And that supports me to do the work that I'm doing, and it takes a lot of pressure off me to have to like scrounge in other areas, and so I can be more giving, and the whole thing. I just I'm not really after trying to like scrape and get every penny off of everything and be rich or anything. I'm just trying to make it happen, and take care of my little family, and put it together. And so that's I'm just trying to use these tools that I got, type thing, to like figure it out, and yeah.
That's one of the things that even as I listened to our interview earlier, that I always took that away from my interview with you was the farmers market, like hopefully that approach came to around with cannabis, keeping it small, keeping it, kind of somewhat craft. But the keeping it small type thing. I look back 3 years ago, and you were just talking about just being able to keep the door open, being able to provide for 10. You at that point, you're like maybe 30. Hell, that'd be awesome, and just be able to know their name and be able to interact with them, that community type feel. So you kind of wanting to keep it at home, you know what I mean, these days, and set things up and to where people, kind of pilgrimage a little bit to you, kind of brings down that number a little bit more to a little bit more serious. But again, the memorable names, the conversations, stuff like that. That was my first interaction with that sun grown company. I go to a lot of events, but I really enjoyed the smaller ambiance of that event, where you wasn't, again, trying to speak over something. It wasn't like a crazy urge to push to, buy. You know what I mean? You're encouraged to come sit down, try. And then one of the other things I love about cannabis is, smoking with somebody, passing there. And that's a fad that we're losing as well. That passing of the joint, that breaking the bread, that you holding it in, thinking about it as the next guy hits it, and you're like,
Right.
hey, yeah, you feel that, you know what I mean? There's something special that I love about that. And what that event offered was another thing that has that type of feel, was the actual breaking bread with everybody at the end of the event. That food was like top notch. And again, it was community, it's live by community, you know what I mean? So it was, yeah, I had a good time, you know what I mean? That was an event that I would gladly go to another, that's on my list to do next year. I hope that's
Yeah.
stuff you all incorporate. It seems like that's already, your base anyway. So I can see you.
Yeah, 100%, man. I mean, I'm digging into it more. I like food. I like to cook a lot. I sometimes I think I'd like to open a restaurant. I think about that often. I've been fucking with pizza specifically last couple of years, and but I want that to be a part of it. And um, because that everything you described just was spot on. You know, I appreciate you saying that and recognizing that. It's encouraging for me because that's where I want to go with it. This what I have going on here is to develop that more. I'd like to have like a little bit of live music and you know, nothing crazy. Like I don't want more than 100 people because I feel like that it feels so good to know most everybody there, or to like have the opportunity to get to know people there, you know. And so, man, if I could have 3 or 4 events a year here that were, um, you know, like just solely about gathering to smoke and consume, you know, one of the ideas that I've been toying with is linking up with you know, different breeders and highlighting their genetics, and if I could highlight that with work I've done with those genetics, and then also bring in the parental lineage, and then put that all together for an event, right? So folks come out to my farm for this event, and let's say you know, but basically we'd have you know, the breeders line showcased in flower, where you could consume in flower, consume in hash, rosin, etc., and then also be able to see the living flowers there and the parents and consume them. And so you're like, oh man, this is what SFE is, you know, because we all haven't had the chance to smoke all the verified cuts. Obviously, you know, some of us are more blessed than others, but to be able to sit down and smoke some of these things and know what it is, and know what made it, it's really fun. Like I got the opportunity to do that a bit with wine and beer. You know, beer not as much, but with wine, often wine is mixed together, and even if when they're pulling the same cultivar, they'll ferment it with different things to make it come out different. So then they'll mix those different fermented batches together to come out with whatever the final pick is. And when I got to be a part of that process and understand that, and I was just like, oh, it just was such a blast. And so the same thing that happens at these different events, you know, when we get together and we're like, you get to trade genetics, smoke each other's weed. That's what's happening. You're like, oh shit, that's what that is that made this together that makes that good. Like it's, I don't know, it's super exciting to me. And so that's kind of one of my ideas on how I could, you know, put some shit on here. Up, you're muted, I think.
And yeah, I am. That's another thing. As I was watching back on that other interview, I don't know how many times I look like I'm muted. I'm muted. I'm still learning, brother. Oh, so yeah. So as far as and to switch it back a little bit with to hash a little bit and how we're do you think we'll ever come to like a cold press process to where we're trying? I mean, we're already dialing back the temperatures as much as possible. Do you think we'll ever,
Yeah, I
so
don't know. I mean, um, I like this. This you know, I haven't tried verified Piatel or however you say it, but I've definitely made Piatel before in the past. You know, just through the way shit goes, right? And I really like we were saying earlier, like the less you do to the thing, the better it tastes. And I think that we're going to refine the process to make full melt better, whether it's dry sift or with water hash. Um, these freeze dryers are new to us, you know, and we haven't designed freeze dryers for ourselves yet. You know, like no one has really not even come close to that. Like once we get to that level, that's going to change shit. You know, when you can put the shit in the tray and it comes out full melt, like we're over drying it often is what's going on. Or you know what I mean? Like there's it's really challenging. I've been working with the freeze dryer for 2 years, and you know, in those 2 years, let's say I've run 400,000 grams, you know, easily through it. It's a lot of fucking shit, and I don't got it down. You know what I mean? That's my point. Is I've run a lot and I don't got it down. You know, I made better full mount air drying than I do in the freeze dryer. You know.
I can appreciate that. I've always thought that was to me was more of aesthetic purpose. Again, we're putting a breeze on there. We talk about, terps being volatile and especially to for air passing over them just as bad as water. So we take a gentle breeze and I think we're losing a lot over through that process. To me, the only part, and I've made a lot of hash, and the only part that freeze dryer in my mind has is for water. Keep it
Yeah.
away from my hash. Let me slowly evaporate my water and recapture what terps are in there, even if they're in a dry form. You know what I mean? Powder, whatever, some of the oils I've lost in there. Let me take and reintroduce it back into my hash somehow. Maybe even if it's through, like, say, that jar tech, warming it up and like flipping it one time, and then maybe into a temple ball. For me, again, like you're saying, the best way to get that moisture out was kind of for me like a Frenchy cannoli type way where he was taking it. He always, sieved it up too, which I believe in that, but I like the patty, a nice thin patty in a freezer, and some Prylex and some wax paper there. You can freeze it, make that moisture come out, pull it out, let the air dry that off, reintroduce it back into the freezer again, pull that moisture out,
Oh,
dry.
I see. Yeah, just
You
to
know what
keep,
I
keep it.
mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Now keep it in the patty versus working it down, smashing it up.
Well, what I Bubble Man taught me. So like when I originally learned to make ice wax is what we called it. You know, from Matt Rise, and we do the cheese grater thing, right? We'd freeze the patty and cheese grate it, and that was really good. And when I was telling Bubble Man about that, he's like, like freaking out, like, oh gosh, bro, you realize you're shredding heads in half. Yeah, yeah. And so then he's like, go get yourself a little sifter, like a powder sugar sifter, and do that and leave more water in it when you're doing it, and then you can spread it out that way. So I started doing it that way, and that was I had a lot better results that way. But I think that we could. There's so many ways we can design machines, whether it be a freeze dryer or a freeze drying dried room, where we pull less vacuum and do that, because that's what a freeze dryer does essentially, is similar to what you're saying, is it freezes it, and then it pulls vacuum, and then it slowly warms it up, and as that shit's warming up, the moisture comes off. You could reprogram and fuck with this to, like, essentially burp a lot slower. you know that's what I was kind of getting at, that we haven't even had a chance to design these for ourselves, and or work with scientists that know more than what we know. We know what we're going after. Someone that understands the science of this shit would be super helpful. um yeah, what was I gonna say? For instance, when we start coming down into those, when we start pulling vacuum and getting cold, we change the boiling temperature of the terpenes, right? So that was one of the learning curves that I had over the last year or so, was from a dude, Humphrey Hashish, and he's in organic chemistry school, I think, or graduated or something. And as he's going through the process, he's making hash and learning about sublimation, all this stuff. And he starts asking his professor more and more questions, and realizes, wait a second, when we're putting this hash into these freeze dryers, and they're heating up to 45 degrees on the shelf temp, but they're pulling back, it's actually boiling off these terps, because it's not like, it's more akin to 72 degrees Fahrenheit. And then so when you kind of do the math backwards for the vacuum that is being pulled, you had to reduce the shelf temp down to 5 degrees, which increased the amount of time it takes to dry the hash because you're doing it at a lower temp. And so then in order to do that, it's been a process. In order to do that, you have to reprogram the machines and get new software for them. And you know, it's so I'm kind of going off on it, but it's a just we're just learning so much about it, and it's beautiful that we've had over the last 2 years a hash revival. You know what I mean? I still have some things that I would love to change. You know, I'm glad that everyone's smoking rosin. Like that's so much better than BHO. You know what I mean? And I think we can do better, and but we have energy behind it now, and there's money being invested in companies, and it's pretty cool. Like I was just saying, someone said something online. I made a comment. He's like, "Oh, you need to go back and talk to Frenchie." I'm like, "Bro, if Frenchie could see what was going on right now, like he would weep. You know, he would be so stoked. Like it's a revival. You know, it's cool."
I think a lot of that, a little bit is a nostalgia purposes, and I think we're missing a lot. You know what I mean? We're realizing some of the stuff that we were missing by pulling out through different methods or whatever filtration. I think we're starting to there. People are starting to appreciate the older traditional methods of making hash, leaving a little bit behind. You know what I mean? To let it carry and be a little bit more of a medicine for sure. Um, I kind of one of the things I don't like to say, the downside of hash and the hash extracts for me has been more of I hate to say it, but it's more like a recreational push, a convenience by a larger model, if you will, to kind of skip some steps, the drying process, paying trimmers, they avoid all that hubbub to just grow and turn it into extracts, which is pushing an extract market. And I don't know, for like the emerging people that are getting into cannabis, if that's the starting point, and I see it scare off a lot of people. You know what I mean? They come in, they dab, dab, dab. Wow, it gave me anxiety. Now I don't want nothing to do with cannabis again.
Right.
Not to say that I don't see that in flower, but um, I don't see a lot of that with like the traditional hash. You know what I mean? That stuff was more kind of comatose, like an old school sift. And so I hope that we can kind of contain or keep it as whole, as possible as, extracts and hash push forward, I guess.
Yeah. That reminded me, my buddy Kevin Jodry got to go to Pakistan this year. And I called him up when he got back, and I was like, tell me about it, bro. Like I wanted to hear some stories. And he was telling me about the different qualities of the plants, and that it was really diverse. And I kind of didn't expect it for some reason. Well, not for some reason. I expected that it would have just naturally narrow itself down, open pollinating, that the plants would narrow themselves down. You'd see a little bit of variation, but the way he was describing it, there were some that were extremely greasy, just dripping wet. Just he would say, the greasiest I've ever seen. And then I said, well, that doesn't. I'm kind of scratching my head a little bit, and I goes like, well, what about the sandy stuff? Like, he's like, that was there too, man. It was just as sandy. And he was like, we were harvesting seeds, we were harvesting bits of plants, and we couldn't cut the branches off. Like we couldn't break the branches off. We had to get a saw. They were so strong. He's like, I've never seen such strength in the plants. And so then I'm kind of scratching my head, and I'm like, what's up? He does not really making sense to me. He's like, then I realized after getting to know the people and everything that the hash was a secondary crop to them. The main crop they were going after was the seed for food. That was because they're up in the mountains and they need the food, and that's what they eat in the winter. And so really what breeding and selecting for is plant vigor and diversity of genetics that can withstand whatever is going on in the different years as the weather comes, right? And then they make the hash out of that. And so, when you were saying that, I was kind of triggered. Like, the traditional hash was more diverse and also like well rounded, where this stuff here we're getting very specific. When we're coming to the point of a clone, not only just a clone, but like we're squeezing the oil outside of the heads. It's a lot different than traditional hash. It's extremely different. Hope you're muted again.
Thank you. I think that a lot of that plays into that hash harvest time stuff like that. Um, sun, microbes. As far as like you're talking there, as far as like same strain diversity, I think that's just like the plant's ability to ward off. I think I've talked about this a lot over the years, as I've talked to a lot of breeders, is that outside breeding is going to be essential in cannabis. I think as we breed more and more indoors, the what actually affects the plant, we're limiting the environment, the environmental pressures, temperatures, yada yada yada. You know what I mean? We have a recipe. So anything that could attack that, you know what I mean, that nature could put in that toolbox that you're talking about. You know what I mean? From last year, seeds
Right.
being passed on aren't going to be there. We're breeding a weaker and weaker weed cannabis indoor. I think that we're going to need that diversity from outdoors to keep cannabis strong. I think indoor breeding is going to just weed plants in the long run. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's happened almost every plant out there that we have narrowed down, right? In history, the banana, the potato, the um, corn and wheat, like almost every. I'm sure there's a couple others, right? That's happening again with the banana is getting another blight. I think right now with it, they're on the threat of losing the Cavendish banana. You know, which is the one we eat. Like, there's a bunch of other types of ones, but we all eat just this one variety. You know. But
I didn't hit it hard enough. Sorry. I think this was our last chance with the really good sweet banana. We've lost sweetness over the years with the banana. They're like the Chiquita banana that we were growing up with. It's kind of we've lost that over the years. But I think it's possible that we could have the same thing happen with cannabis if we don't keep some strong outdoor bred cannabis in the mix.
yeah, and it's um in some ways there's a lot of people working with a lot of the same things, but there's also a lot of more people working with a lot more things than there was 5 years ago, and that's a really cool thing. Like, the idea that this plant might be in charge of us and less that we're in charge of it is kind of a lot more believable. When you just see like something like what happened, COVID happened, and then everyone just started breeding and trading seeds like fucking mad over COVID. Like, who would have saw that coming? You know what I mean? Like, everything was getting so narrow, and then we just all like got on the internet, started doing group chats and sharing seeds and auctioning seeds, and it went crazy. And there's a revival of genetics. Sure, there's a lot of people messing with a lot of the same stuff, but um, right now the plant's in a better position than it was 5 years ago, I think, in terms of genetic diversity.
Okay. Been talking about sharing seeds. Thank you, brother. You when I got the chance to see you blindsided me with a nice little pinch gift of seeds there. and I can't thank you enough, man. Uh, what do you? I guess my first question. I see the Trans Am, so this seems to be the backbone of a lot of this. You want to tell me a little bit of what's special? Where'd the name come from? I think there's something special there to you.
It's actually, well, it's actually Capulator's work. Um, the Trans Am is my friend Hanging with Roots um, got me a pack of those seeds to cheer me up. Um, not last summer, but the summer before, and he was like, "These are pretty special," and he just kept saying they're pretty special. Check it out, and I didn't know what it was. It just said Trans Am on there, so I had to look it up and figure it out. And it's God's Gift, a Colombian, and there's a chem in there, and the white. Um, and so I was like, oh, cool. Like, I don't have any of that shit in my genetics except for chem, and so I was like, this is going to be something that's going to be really good to breed with in terms of that's just out of pocket. You know what I mean? Um, and so I popped him along with a bunch of other things. And last winter we had a really gnarly winter, and I shut it down. I shut the grow down. In December, I decided I wasn't going to pay for the winter, and pulled all the plants up and had cleaned up everything, and forgot about these plants that were in there. I came in the next day and saw them and ripped them up and just left them on the bed. Just, eh, you know what I mean? Like, and sure as shit, like a week later, my buddy Matt comes over and we're walking in the greenhouse, and he's like, oh, what's up with those Trans Am plants? And I'm just like, my heart sank. And I was like, God damn it, dude. Like, I'm such an asshole, And so I start to tell him, and I felt so bad. And as I'm telling him, I look down, and there the plants are that I had ripped out, still alive. And I was like, fuck, man. And out of embarrassment, I fucking repotted them and brought them into the grow room, and they took off. And he's like, they're special, bro. I called him. I told him, I was like, they're alive, bro. He's like, they're special, bro. They're special. Like, all right, like at that point, I was fucking duty bound to do something with them. And so they grew up, and they were totally sativa dominant. They had the really Colombian dominant, super hazy, fruity, like peachy apricot type thing, like a stone fruity thing, on the back of this haze thing. Really, jagged, sativa, edgy, just dangerous looking plants. And so I took two males that I thought were closest to this peachy thing that I liked in the female, and hit them on just about everything I had in the room. I did the traditional, pollen chuck. Um, and then so that's what you got is, those are a good pollen chuck in my opinion, a good hunter's pack of seeds. They're known clones that I bred with before and do really well, and have none of those genetics in there. So if you're looking to if you like the mom that was used and you're like, man, I really want to get something like that mom, it's really easy to go and find that, because it's going to be the fat leaves. It's going to be really clear and easy to do that. But also, it's going to spread out. You're going to have 50% of the genetics. They're going to be a combination of the two, and you might get some really cool, interesting throws in there. So yeah, that's what the Trans Am is, and I haven't tested them yet, and so they're all untested. I made a ton of them. I have big jars of them, and I sent a bunch to Cap, and so I brought them to Michigan to hand out to people to be like, here, that's the story. Like, go and test them, go and hunt. It's really good. It's a hunter's pack, So yeah,
I appreciate the backstory on that. That's pretty awesome. I like it. Sounds like a pretty durable backbone. Yeah.
yeah, clearly.
And again, the fact that somebody told you they were special before that, and then they suffer through like that, that does make them special 100%. So
Yeah,
I can't wait to work through some of these. And again, thank you. I greatly appreciate it for sure.
for sure.
So how close to you? I mean, what else has changed since the last time we talked? 3 years has been a lot of time. Have any interests changed? What else has changed in your life? I mean, as even gardening practices. I mean, as you have you learned? Hopefully, we're learning something new all the time, and have you taken your gardening or hash making processes in a different direction in the last few years?
Gardening wise, yeah, I'm still doing aquaponics in terms of um collecting fish poop from fish systems and then brewing that and applying that. Just this last week, I set up a system that was totally torn down and broken apart, and I put it up inside my mother room. And I'm really excited. I feel like that's something that I've been lacking. Is I used to years ago just have many aquaponic systems that I could water my plants with, and so every time I'd be watering, they'd be getting that fish poop water. Um, and so it was like kind of a no-brainer to have one of those in my mom room, my vegging out, and I could just like water with those all the time. So I took the time to set up a nice little system and a good filter in there. So I'm looking forward to reaping the benefits from that, the next month or two. Um, and then the other thing that I've been messing with the last couple of years, my buddy from the Rooted Leaf, he makes fermented plants, carbon-based nutrients, and he lives over here. And we've become good homies. And actually, like I go and pick up all his spent materials, all the plant material after he's done with it, and I bring it home and compost with it. So I've been for maybe 4 years. My most of my nutrients have been coming from him, but like I've just been adding wood chips to it and making composting it and adding a couple other things. Mostly fish poop. I add fish poop to it, and sea salt is what I add to it. And sometimes some IMO if I'm feeling ambitious. But anyway, so him and I got together and we started talking about brewing, um, brewing teas and making, kind of like taking the system that I have here, which is like I was telling you, a pretty almost a set it and forget it, but having the ability to kind of drive it more with different teas. And so we came up with a couple nutrient lines that we've been like talking about launching and haven't really launched yet. But I've been testing with them for the last year and a half. That's been a lot of fun. I had these big, like 8-gallon buckets, and I need like 6 ounces for like 100 gallons type thing. So it doesn't take a lot, and it goes a long way. But one of them is like spirulina, matcha, coconut sugar powder, and I think has some algae in it, some other algae in it. The other one is Peruvian cacao and some humic acid. Like I'm not going to remember them off the top of my head right now, but I had that, and then I have a lactobacillus one that's mixed with aloe vera powder and coconut sugar powder, and then one that's a saponin based one with a bunch of like licorice root and soap nuts and different things like that. So I can use those. Like I use the saponin one to drive fungal life. So when I'm heading into flower, I can make a quick brew of that and boost my fungal life as I'm going into flower, which is mimicking what would happen in the fall, as the leaves are falling and the plants are starting to get that boosted fungal life type thing. When I'm heading into veg, I can use that green matcha one, and boost up all the vegetative growth and the bacteria growth with that stuff. Um, and then I'm feeding the Peruvian cacao in there in the early part of flower as well. The labs, that's another bacterial booster, gets everything going. Also eats a lot of pathogenic material. So yeah, that's something that's been really fun, and that we've been. Nick could explain it a lot better than I do. I'm kind of bro science about it. To be honest, it's kind of embarrassing, but it's been really fun, and it's really up the flavor in some of my weed. I think for sure. It's up the complexity in it.
Right on. Nick is a great dude. I see him. I'm lucky enough to see him pop into chat from time to time. I've had him on the show a couple times. I said kind of regrets a little bit sleeping, sleeping on a little bit, building a better bridge there because that what a great source of knowledge that cat is. And he does make it just his enthusiasm alone about what he's talking about is very magnetic. You know what I mean? He's just so excited about what he's telling you, and he makes it super understandable. But the presentation, is 100%. I listen to a lot of Audible, and I like to hear from the author themselves. It makes it so much better. Their enthusiasm, why you know what I mean? And the same thing about the information that he passes, man. It's just, he wants to give it to you.
Well,
You know what I mean?
he's so invested in it. It's the coolest thing. Like, I don't know really a lot of people that run nutrient companies, but I don't think that they care as much as he does about his inputs. Like, he goes and visits the farms in different countries, in Asia, and he'll buy like their whole lot of jasmine flowers from one farm. And he'll go out and he'll go out and visit all the different jasmine farms and be like, this is the one. He'll get tests on it. Like, he's super heady about it, and everything. And so, like, that's why I get all those materials, because it smells so good. Like, you want to eat it. Like, I don't know if you've ever bought any of his products. At the Cal Mag is just like, it's got orange blossoms, I think, orange peel in it, and jasmine. I don't know. It's wonderful.
There's something to be said. I mean, just about a good organic soil is similar to that. There's something that draws you. I mean, even it's like gross, but beautifully good, nice. You know what I mean? To your nose,
Totally.
I guess. Um, yeah, I totally get that. Maybe something I was gonna ask you. Outside, oh, I gotta retrace my our steps a little bit here. I believe it was about inputs there. Um,
About the cacao.
Light cycle about, yeah, a little bit about the you mimicking, the fungal bacteria cycles from veg to bloom there. But what do you think about light cycles? Last couple of years since we've talked, I've talked to a few people, namely Joe Pietri, Gold Crown Seeds there, and he's kind of pushed a different light cycle, way less lights as we're overdoing it a little bit with light. You don't see, 12, 18 6, 12 12 that much in nature. Is we see a lot lower numbers. And so do you think you would ever see yourself kind of, adjusting way smaller light schedules to kind of mimic nature a little bit closer to, some of the things you're talking there?
Um, no, I don't know exactly all of what, sure, we never, where I live, um we don't get 18 hours, of sunlight. um we get like 16, you know but what I'm doing is I'm always fighting against nature, right? Not always, but in different times of the year, like in the fall, in late summer, all the plants are trying to go to flower. The light's reducing, they're trying to go to flower. I'm wanting a lot of them to do that, but I'm also wanting a significant portion of them to not do that, so I can take clones of them and make sure they go into there. And you're actually fighting a mysterious thing, there's, I can't, I'm not a science guy. I'm a bro, to a degree, but there's gravitational pull. There's a lot of things beyond just the simple light cycle, and so what I'm trying to say is that whenever I've reduced down to 16, I see pre hairs, and I find that it's a little bit harder to keep them in full state of veg for a long period, given that I'm playing with outside as well. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I've tried the gaslight method. Have you heard of that? Their gas lamp method, something like that. Gas lantern method, where you run for 6 hours on and 4 hours off. I think it is 6 hours on, 4 hours off, 6 hours on, 4 hours off. And so you reduce the amount over the time, but you never let the plants go back into the full thing. And it works, but they're always like in this pre-flower pistil thing. And I did that for a couple of years, and I just kind of sat back one day. Someone might have said it to me, like, I was talking about, and they were like, "Do you really think those plants are as good as they were before?" And I was just like, you know what? I don't think they are. I don't think they were as healthy, And so I went back to 18 hours, and yeah. So I don't know. That's kind of that for me, and because I'm breeding and doing a lot of moving around, that 18 hours seems to really help out. But I do flip off to 11, in flower, right? Let them have a little extra hour of darkness. They don't need that extra.
I, I agree with a lot of what you're saying here, 100%. Well, kind of some of the things, and like a short Cliff Notes thing
Yeah,
is one of the things that we've talked about is like a 12 and 1. It's basically what it's for veg. That's what we talked about in veg is 12 hours on, 5.5 off, 1 hour solid, and then 5.5 off, just to keep that veg cycle. And it's worked really well for a lot of people. The only thing that we found that it's a little bit harder to keep a male under that light cycle without, flipping his trigger, but it seemed to work real well. But when I kind of asked you about like dialing, nature does as the season goes on, pulls back that life cycle hour by hour by hour. But in this case, and Joe had talked about actually taking it back to like 8 hours of light. And and it's I started to try this a little bit before I had to shut down my grow the big since the last time we talked. Um, and it's I seen good results with it. You know what I mean? Plants were happy, everything else. But and I've had other people that watch the show go through it, dial back their process, and seen a lot of great things about it too. But as you talk about doing nature cycle, I was wondering if you'd be willing to or try, dialing it back hour for hour as flower goes on, as nature would. You know what I mean?
yeah. And I don't know how much it actually. I should look at it and see how much it actually changes. Because it's an 8 week period, 8 to 10 week period, right? For me, it starts the third week of July is when I see my first hairs in full term, or August, excuse me. The third week of August is when I see my first little hairs. So I don't know how much it reduces on from that point, and I haven't, messed with that indoors either. So I'm totally, I don't know indoors. I'm only coming from the greenhouse space where I'm fighting nature in the fall, type thing. And in the winter, it seemed like when I was running like the gaslight in the winter, in the method in the winter, they didn't, they grew, they veg, they were fine, but they were just kind of like not as happy, and they had that pistily thing, and yeah. So whatever. I have LEDs that are dimmable in my greenhouse now, and so I've kind of dialed it down to I don't even know what it is. It's such a fraction. I have them on like I think 10%. You know, and I have only a fraction of them on, you know, for during the night, you know, when I need to have those lights on to keep them in veg.
Good. Appreciate you sharing some of that with us because we all do have different practices and like that. You know what I mean? But some of the stuff that does make sense to me. I mean, I'm not a very scientific, guy myself, more bro science ish. Uh, but I have talked to a lot of great growers over the years about like daily light intervals and stuff like that, and plants kind of getting to the point where they need enough. They've hit that point where they've had enough, and so that dialing back the light a little bit kind of made sense to me a little bit. And I've done I've been blessed to work with some light companies over the years and test like that. And part of that process being time lapse video. So I've had the process or to look back at the footage and see, indeed, after a certain amount of time of the day, the plant does shut down and kind of coast through the rest of the light cycle there. So when I heard, more and more people talk about dialing back the light, kind of made good sense, after watching some of that.
Yeah, they in fact in when you said DLI, daily light interval, it reminded me that fancy greenhouse climate controllers, you know, like mine is fancy in, you know, like a Honda Accord is fancy, you know, like well, you're right. It's nice, it's cool, but but it's not like a really nice one. But the really nice ones measure DLI, and you can plug it in for what your crop is, and they'll measure for that, and they'll also remember what's happening over a 3-day period, a 72-hour period. So maybe it was sunny yesterday, it's overcast today, and I think that they can even some of the cool ones can forecast and or look on online and kind of look at what the next day will be and make a choice as to whether they should flip the lights on or not, based upon the average DLI over 72 hours type thing. Um, you know, so you can be on one day where it's totally cloudy and they're not on, and then the next day it's cloudy and they're on, and then the computer is just, you know, making those choices. It's pretty cool.
That's super
I think
cool.
it's like the 30 or something is the number. Does that sound right for cannabis? 30, 35?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Do you think, man, uh, as we talk about a little bit about animation there, how long do you think that AI or something like that will get into cannabis? And do you think that it will be able to, outdo us for selection? I mean, it's so individualized per person how it works. Do you think that AI will ever be able to, you know, pull the right one for us?
I mean, I think that guided, yeah, it's gonna, you know, it's the sorting that AI can do. It's you know, it's massive, right? Um, here's a good example. A lot of people have bred with Skittles over the past few years, and it always breeds true with this the dominant monoterpenes that come off Skittles, right? That are kind of grapefruity, Skittlesy, like really hard to describe, interesting. Um, but if you go back and smoke the original Skittles, it's way better. And you're like, if you try to decipher what that is, I think that it's that there's this like soapy cilantro, sandalwoody type flavor that's going on in the background that adds more complexity to the thing, right? And I think that it's a recessive trait in the lines, and so it doesn't come up very often. And when people breed with Skittles, it's easy to find that mono that's like, oh yeah, that's it. But you don't really know until you smoke that thing to really know, oh, whether it has this thing. And in my example, the reason I kind of figured this out was I got Black Lime Reserve Cross Testarossa seeds from Urban Terp Factory, and I did really well with those. And I made F2s, The Testarossa is got the Skittles in it. It's a Royal Kush Skittles, right? So the Skittles is in the line, and when I made F2s of that, I opened up that opens up the line, and it gives me the potential to see kind of all the genetic combinations in there. And I ran 1,200 seeds of that, and so I looked at a ton of them. And when I had gone through to harvest, I had my notes, you know, and my different plants that were tagged and the ones that I was interested in and thought were my keepers. And by the time I got through all the way to the end, I found this small runty plant in there that was under the can. It was runty because it was under the canopy of everything else. It didn't make it up past in time, and it was the one, man. And so I kept that. I re-vegged it. I named it Black Wap Gold. It's this really, really lime, amazing thing that's like cushy and dank. And I've had it for 4 years. And as I, you know, it kind of fell into its groove, it kind of has this, now that I look back, I'm like, it kind of does have the same morphology as Skittles. The bud kind of has that same round. It looks a lot better. It's a lot more sparkly. It's a better grower. It's a better yielder. Um, it doesn't hash. And this spring, my buddy handed me a cut of Skittles. Right? I'm sorry, it's a long-winded story. I'm trying to get to the point. Um, so he handed me a cut of the Skittles, and I threw it in my garden. I threw one in my garden to flower, and one out to the veg, and it was right next to the Black Wap Gold. I harvest the Skittles one day, you know, and I go to smoke. I harvest them both, and I go to smoke the Skittles one day, and I'm like, God damn, this is good. This is good. I'm so excited. I run and I give my wife some, you know, it's in the morning. I'm like, God, remember this? This was, you know, because I hadn't had it for years. The next day, I repeat the process with the Black Wap Gold, and my eyes fucking open up. I'm like, holy shit. They both share that common sandalwood, soapy cilantro flavor in there. And that's what makes them so interesting. You know, like because I had subsequently also opened up a bunch of the black lime work that Jackson had put out. And there's a bunch of really interesting lime flavors and diversity, but I'd never found one that really had and I couldn't describe it, and I just really didn't know what it was. But there's just this complex thing about this Black Wap Gold cut that I found and named, and it wasn't until I had tasted those two side by side or day after the other that I was like, holy shit, that's what it was. And it was because it's recessive, and because people haven't been able to hunt big enough populations. Not too many people have looked at 1,000+ seeds of a thing. Sure, a lot of people have, but Skittles, I don't know. I think it's just one of those things. You run the numbers, you can find the recessive stuff.
I like the recessive things. To me, that's the runt. I've always been that slower grower in that seed pop. I've always been the one to give that one a chance just to see if she didn't carry something special. So, and you only can do that by giving things a chance, running some wide numbers.
Yeah, and I guess So sorry to go back to answering the question on AI. I think AI can assist that hunt. You know what I mean? That was my personal experience. That's my this little weird experience I had. That was a 4-year time frame to put all that together, right? To tell you that little story and go, that's why I think this is interesting. You know what I mean? But now that I have had that experience, we could take markers of the black rock, take markers of the skittle, find the common things in there, and then send AI to work to go find it. You know what I mean? Right. So I think it's going to be pretty cool. Type thing.
For like a recipe for future strains. I think I do, man. I think it's cool.
It might even be able to say, in order to find that thing, Mr. Rutherford, you're going to have to sort through this many seeds, on this combination, versus if it's another combination, like, oh, you only got to sort through 50, right? Like, because I think, I don't know. It's beyond my understanding, but I think it's going to be cool. I don't think computers are going to take over because they can't 100%, they can't analyze the way we are, you know, like this plant is different than all the other plants, obviously. And it's highlighted because it's so unique. There is root beer, there is carrot, there is grape juice, there is garbage, there is grandma's perfume, like the plethora of flavors. There's leather. I don't know. I'm just like totally blown away and in love with what this plant can do. You know, it's like, I'll be what you need me to be, motherfucker.
That's awesome. It is so true, though. I mean, it's so very, very true. Um, do you think that, and but yeah, I think it, yeah. I seen a thing the other day. A few people sent me in reels about plants actually talking, sending out a vibration. Not only that, they had like audio to back it up, and they were claiming that a healthy plant would talk maybe 8 times a minute. It would make a noise to where a sick plant would make more noise. And then they turned around and they fed that into the AI. And this is where it got scary. Was AI was able to learn it, cipher it, and be able to pick that plant out of a sea of plant noises and was like, yeah, that's the one. So the things that you're saying, I can't own, could AI almost do it by like tone the voice of the plant? Like, oh yeah, that was gonna, you know what I mean? I think
Right. There's other stuff
it's
there. Yeah.
completely possible that it would be able to narrow it down like that. So yeah, it's interesting to see. And again, just if it'll be able to grow it better than us, I don't know. I think at
We'll
some
see.
point,
I mean,
scientifically, on a big level, somebody will put together a gas-filled room that's automated. That they figured that sweet spot out of each of the gases. Nobody goes in there. It's completely scary level. Oh, man.
I mean, yeah, we really just don't know so much about plants as a society. Like, we don't know that much about the soil, you know, like there's a trend. People are documentaries about these blue zones. Have you seen that? These
Mm.
different zones that are like people live to be 100. You know, I think there's a handful of them in the world there where the climate's just right, and the density and the nutrient density in the soil is just right, and the lifestyle that people live is just right. That they live very, very long, healthy lives. And so there, people are doing all these marketing spins off of it, and how to market and sell shit to get people to do that. And to me, um, it's the nutrients in the soil, like I was just saying, and they're all like somewhere in the glacier, in the runoff of the mountains, where they're getting all that rock mineral, in the soil. And so I don't really know. I obviously don't really know. I just my point is that I think that someday we're going to get smart enough, and AI is going to help us figure that out. That we probably are going to be growing significantly different and better and healthier plants. Um, in large part, I don't think that the food that we eat has very much nutrition, in it. And this will be kind of controversial to some people, but I think that it's easier to get mineral nutrients out of meat than it is out of plants in our current society. Not that it has to be that way, but just that my point is that you can get a grass-fed, properly raised steak a lot easier than you can get like nutrient-dense vegetables. Like even the stuff at the co-ops and stuff like that, it's not grown to the same quality that we're growing our cannabis. They're not pumping that into the soil, where as properly rotated, pasture that they're getting that those nutrients are there. That's happening. That transition is happening in the cycle. That doesn't have to be that way. I think we can all grow our own vegetables, and farms can get better and better. But with the way our society's set up, we don't reward people for growing nutrient-rich plants. There's not even a metric for it. You know what I mean? Like we go and buy our weed, and there's, whether the metric is right or not, there's a metric there that people judge the quality. They judge you. You can judge the terpenes by looking at data. You can judge the THC, the potency potentially. Like there's flaws in this, but anyways.
No, I think what you're spot on. We were actually talking a little bit about this in the last what we're calling the organics panel now is the organics wormhole, and we do that every other Friday. If
All
you're in,
right, yeah, I'd love to come, man. Yeah.
we were talking about basically carbon credits, kind of, and how they would apply to like cannabis at some point. And we were kind of hoping with the push of carbon credits and the carbon pressures like that, we would see more and more farms farming more responsibility in well, not only trying to get better carbon credits, but producing carbon credits in their farming practices, and then through that producing way more, neutrally dense food and cannabis through a little bit of this legislation push through the carbon credit thing. Uh, so it was a
I think
pretty.
it's going to be good. Yeah, I like that. I like that concept. I mean, I can see where people could have issues with that, but overall, I see it being a general positive and pushing everyone to a better state of health, and flavor, right? Right. Who hasn't had a homegrown tomato or homegrown vegetable and been like, damn, that's fucking tasty, you know?
The only wrench I threw into that is because Carlton, the Pharmacy Seed Network, there was talking about they actually have a lot of like almost small farm, almost home available meters. You could go now and just be like, okay, take it right to the store and tell the nutritional density of what you were purchasing there. And I'm like, if it comes to that now, are we going to end up getting like super snobby, as we've already seen a little bit in like cannabis, as the push forward and THC, that one molecule, not all of them. We're not pushing for all of them anymore. Or nowadays we are backstepping. Let me take that back. We are backstepping. It isn't so much, a lot of people are noticing it isn't so much about THC, but we're backtracking a little bit in that high number and whatever. But I think that's another thing. Will we be like, oh, this was high in this nutrient, so that's the one I'm.
Yeah, we kind of do that, right? Because they kale became probably the first popular one, right? Kale is high in calcium, and so everyone started eating kale, and then avocados, right? It's or whatever it is. I don't know. I think that kind of happens a little bit, but not in the metered way, like you were talking about. Um, I was gonna say, like, there's so many levels to an industry, and that sorry for calling it that, but it is an industry at this point. Cannabis, it's more than just an industry. There's people that participate in cannabis in all these different levels, and the folks that participate online are some seriously invested folks, right? If you're hopping on a channel like they were on right now and you're watching this, you are pretty heavily invested in cannabis, more so than the general public, more so than 95% of the people that consume cannabis. You were like really into this motherfucker. And and for those people, we're into salt. We're talking about, oh, is it rosin better than full melt or dry sift? And do you want to use a vacuum oven or a freeze dryer, or do you want to air? Like, we're getting into the weeds on it. But there's a bulk of people that don't give a fuck, just like there is with food. And even if they might learn over time, now we're in a society where with food, everybody agrees across the board, organic's better. Like, you're not going to find anyone that's going to really argue that point. They'll tell you why they don't eat it, and it's usually because of price, right? Or, it's always price, right? It's never not price. It's just price. Like, or it's like they just like, fuck, I just want to eat pizza, right? Pizza and hamburgers, but um I guess that my point is that the cannabis is all over the place too in that, and there's those of us that care a lot, but there's this other side of cannabis that doesn't care, that is having massive gains right now in technology, in breeding, the stuff that's going to feed the masses in terms of cannabis and cannabinoids. Like, there's triploid plants that are out there, that you can buy. If you're in California, you can get tissue cultured triploid plants for like $4 a clone, like in bulk, if you're a commercial producer. And you're like, what? It doesn't make any sense, like, and a lot of it's not what you and I are going to want to consume. It's going to be super high and potent in some of these things, but I don't think it's going to end up. This is my personal feelings, is I don't think it's going to end up having the nuance of the things that we like to consume, whether that be flavor, effect, aroma, any of those markers. And this will be another touchy thing that is my personal experience and opinion is, I think that the flowers that taste the best and have the best effect take longer to make. So I'll say auto flowers and short early varieties just don't have the complexity. They may be loud and have some really cool, awesome things similar to the orange purple weed we were talking about earlier. But when it really comes to stasis and making you feel good and having a complex thing, I don't see that in my experience. For myself, it's the nicest fucking way I can say that.
I can see that. Now, I'm glad you kind of brought that back around because I had another question kind of relating to that, and I guess it kind of pertains to this as well. Um, so what are some of the indicators of overall quality for you? I mean, we talked about like the purples being like a visual factor for us, as like that might not take me to where I want to be, but is it an overall sign of where it will take you? I mean, for me, and I've seen a couple other people out, we were talking about the purples. I like the lime green weed. I'm there as well. So it does overall color. Is that how do we factor in overall color into the quality of what we're seeing?
I mean, you can't. I don't think you can make any hard, fast rules. I mean, I think we can say things and throw things in clumps. Purple, orange. That is not always the case, but there is a lot of purple, orange flavored weed out there. Right now, there's plants that turn dark that I wouldn't necessarily call purple weed. And then when you trim them, they don't come off purple, but they're not the lime green weed that you're talking about. The lime green weed, you're talking about the chems, the fucking cushes, the lime green, gassy fuck, gorilla glue. We can keep going down the list of the, yeah. You know what I mean? There's something to it. But there is a spectrum of, a lot of this root. That's why I'm as you're saying that, I'm thinking like, oh, the root beer that I've been really digging on turns dark. Those they turn, And a lot of the plants I have can end up turning dark. Like they don't go purple, they go black almost, or maroon, you know. Um, and granted, I'm in the greenhouse, so like I run colder temperatures at night. So those expressions come out where they might not indoors. You know what I mean? Um, I don't know. I guess I got off base with what the question was. Sorry.
Well, we're talking about color being an indicator of overall quality, or maybe an indicator of direction of where it's gonna take you. Can we use that? I mean,
To a degree, I mean, I think in final product, I think to a degree, you could look at it and go like, that's purple weed. Um, that may or may not be what I want, you know. But fucking, you can't do that just 100%, because I can just, as I say that, I think of all these, the look at Mac grown right. There's two versions of Mac. Mac will go purple, you know, and that doesn't taste like purple weed to me. That's fucking totally different, you know. The Black Wap Gold I have, it's a lime flavored gassy thing. It's not purple weed, but it's black. It's called. I called it black because it's black. It's dark, almost black.
hmm, I've really sampled it. Well, I guess I've sampled a couple of things that are dark like that. But like, for me, I guess, like a dark green is like kind of a symbol of like a heavy hit, like a heavy smoke, more of a like a couch lock. I would consider that green to be more of an uppy. You know what I mean? So where would you guys put the dark cannabis on this scale?
Uh, well, and it's weird. It's like we're to be clear, we're talking buds, right? Flowers, not leaves, because like they're two different things. Like that, like I was saying, some of the black wap and the root beer and stuff, they'll have these dark leaves, but when you're looking at the bud, it's not that. It's green. Um, so yeah, yes, to a degree, but then there's definitely, when I'm looking at these buds, I'm just thinking of the different competitions I've been to, and the different regen conferences as I put them on, and being given, I get given a lot of flower. We get to smoke and share a lot of it, and in 9 out of 10, the darker purpley stuff um, is more fruity and not as potent. You know, I can say that, right?
Well, I'm glad to feel that I'm glad to hear it's not just me on the floral, the purple
Yeah, I
thing.
do like the lime green, man. I mean, the dog walker is one of my favorites. I don't Have you had the chance to grow dog walker?
Not yet. Again, I've had a little bit of slowdown over the years. I'm just actually getting my feet back into the soil, my fingers back into the soil after, whew, dude, like a year and a half. So
Dang.
I started growing in like 99, early 2000, and it's been steady since. And then I've had to take like a little break, and I had to take like a year and a half off. So I'm just kind of put my fingers back into the soil as of late. So I haven't got to grow a lot of shit
Well,
lately.
I just
Honored that
recently,
I would be able to put some of your shit in there, right? Sometime quick. So uh,
hold me to this and bug me on it. I bred with a dog walker, and I'd love to give you the dog liquor seeds I made, and there's probably some in that I gave you, but I would like you to get the dog walker cut. I just got it back from a dude who gave me a bunch of stuff, like you know what I mean. He just, like, that I had before. He got me the black walk bullback, the bicket, the dog walker. It was like a super super cool thing, and so it's just like barely this tall. You know what I mean? But in a 3 or 4 weeks, I'll send you some snips or something, man, because it's exactly that lime greenweed that you're talking about. You'll love it.
nice, nice. That'd be awesome. Yeah, no, I haven't got to, but that'd be awesome, 100%. And kind of getting back to the overall cultivation, man. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I believe that's equal to equal to the medicine itself, the cultivation side of things, getting your feet in the dirt, spending a little time with them, the plants is super therapeutic.
Do you grow any other plants besides cannabis?
Actually, I do. I've got a few house plants around, and I've dipped my fingers into succulents a little bit here. They're a little fun. Heck yeah, man! You got to do something with some house plants are nice because whatever, but you got to do something with some of these extra lights that are floating around. And I tell you what, man, I've had a lot of fun over the years with the succulents. To be honest with you, I've got like I've tried the LEDs since the light bright days, and I have some of the like old light bright panels, and I've done some cool shit with some succulents. Them the different light, different spectrums bring out different colors. It isn't, you know what I mean? So yeah, I do fart around with some a little bit of house plants and stuff like that. I think house plants could everybody should anybody that's thinking about growing should fuck around with a little bit of house plants just to teach you how to service your plant. You can bring
How to
in a
water?
and water. That's a good one. You can bring in a plant and it'll tell you where it wants to be. You literally have to work that thing around your home until you find that sweet spot. That's its spot. And then you know what I mean. But yeah, yeah, I grow some house plants. I used to do the garden thing, and I can't wait till some point where I can get back and start, growing my own vegetables and stuff like that. But uh, yeah, I fired around with some stuff other than cannabis.
Nice.
What about yourself? I mean, I'm sure you do, but what are some of your favorite things to mess around with other than cannabis?
I have house plants as well. Um, I don't take care of them as well as I ought to. They're the redheaded stepchild of the family, sort of. I'll give them nutrients every couple years, and wonder why they're not growing. Then they'll give them nutrients and you go, wow, oh shit. But I fuck around with peppers a lot. Super hot peppers I got into um, um, a number of years ago, and have kind of messed with those a little bit. And there's a lot of people are into peppers these days, and so I'm kind of I've got a bunch popped. I got some ghost peppers going, some Scotch bonnets, um, a bunch of. I went and bought a bunch of stuff that I'm excited to pop, of new varieties that people have been making. Um, so I'm excited to get some of those going. And tomatoes. I kind of take a little bit of the same approach. I realize, all right, okay, shit, there's all these cool cannabis varieties. There's got to be all these other cool varieties of whatever else. So um, I'm sure you've heard of San Marzano tomatoes from Italy. They're Italian San Marzano Roma style tomatoes that make the best pasta sauce, right? Everybody knows that it's kind of a thing. Maybe not everybody, but it's a known thing. But so I'm like, well, what is that the variety? I know that's the area, right? I know that, but is there like multiple varieties that people grow? I'm like, and when you Google it right away, you don't really see anything. But if you kind of dig in the weeds a little bit, you can find I think there's like 6 different varieties that are grown, and some, anyways. I guess my point is I just kind of dig into the weeds. Like I don't even remember the one that I'm growing. I have about 200 of them out there in my greenhouse right now. I forget the name of them, but it's a San Marzano variety, and I dug through and found what I interpreted to be think was what I was going to like, and ordered them, and they were hard to find. This sub variety of San Marzanos, and I got them, and got 100 of them going, and we'll see. They're just like 6 inches tall, so I'm excited to make a bunch of pizza with them. So yeah, I dig into like that, and a little bit of citrus plants here and there. I don't know. I like plants. If I could, have a full greenhouse that it was just tropical citrus trees, and plants, that would be the cat's pajamas to me. Like I have banana trees in my greenhouse, dude. And like they keep growing up and then they keep dying and I cut them back or like I let they freeze. Like I'm just kind of compulsively growing plants that I think are cool to a degree.
Yeah, they are cool. What kind of peppers do you like? Hot shit?
Yeah. I like super hot shit. I have Carolina Reapers that I bred a couple generations on, which were at one point held the hottest record. They're like 2 million Scovilles. Like that's what they're have tested at. Um, I have the ghost peppers and stuff in different varieties. Yeah, I like making the sauces, and I can't eat them straight. They're crazy to eat. I mean, I could try, but they're nar. But I like putting sauces, making them in sauces, and even at that, as I'm getting older, it's a lot. But it's a whole thing. It's an adrenaline rush. It's a pretty unique experience if you can kind of bear the heat a little bit, and push past that threshold.
I was gonna ask you what it was for you that drew you in with peppers. I'm a pepper guy myself.
You are well. It was an accidental thing. I've always liked spicy things, and had a significantly high tolerance and liked hot sauces and stuff. But I had traded some guy. I was in Minnesota doing veggies, and I traded some guys. I did some guys a favor and did tractor work for them. I went over and tilled their field, and as a thank you, they brought me over ghost peppers, and I'd never heard of them. And they brought me like six racks of them. And this was years ago when they were really expensive and really unique, and I didn't even know what they were. And they're like, "Trust me, you're gonna love this." And I'm like, Who's gonna eat these? Like, I'm in Minnesota. Nobody eats hot shit here. Like, they think fucking paste picante is hot. Like uh, this is not the market. And they're like, just there's a wing store down the road. Just go for it. And so I had an aquaponic bed that I had just built. 4 feet wide by I think 60 feet long, and so I threw them in the aquaponics bed, and they fucking took off really fast. And whatever, 10 weeks, 12 weeks later, I had a ton of peppers, and they were like you couldn't touch them. Like what I mean? You could like I made all the mistakes, like harvesting them and then going taking a piss, my dick, and like I did all that shit like no fun. And I had finally learned you got to wear the gloves. But so I go down to this wing store. It was a pirate bar, Caribbean pirate bar, and they served wings, and I had no idea. I just walked into the back on a Thursday or Friday and was like, "Yo, I got Carolina Reapers or ghost peppers. Are you guys buying?" And they're like, "Bullshit. You don't got Carolina Reapers." Like it's like I do. It's weird, I know, but I have a greenhouse. I live just down the road. And so next thing I know, I'm up in the office and these guys are breaking down to me like what they do. And they import extracts from all over the place and they make all these different wings and they have competitions and they import pimento wood from Jamaica. It's like this really crazy high end like wing spot. And they start buying these peppers for $25 a pound from me, and I'm like, holy shit. And I've got like, 50 pounds a week or whatever, like a lot. And it's like, and they were just buying them and making sauces and canning it, to use in their thing throughout the year. They were like, this is gold to them, because they were buying the dried stuff and they wanted the fresh to make the sauce with the fresh and then be able to can it. And so after, we had a fucking couple big paychecks, I started going in and sitting down at the bar afterwards and being like, all right, well, I got to try these wings, you guys, And so I remember they hand me a menu and it's like a scale, like at the bottom is the mild, the mild ones. And at the top is the triple X concentrated deal. And so I worked my way up the list. I was like, all right, came back next week, couple. By the time I get to the top one, it's like they're like it's intense, right? I mean, it is so intense that I have two wings and it's a full on body experience. I don't know if you how deep you've gone with pepper, but like you're like gonna shit yourself, throw up. I'm at the bar and I'm like drinking beer, as many beers as I can to come in. By the time I can just like come back to my senses, because I can't get up to go to the bathroom, like, and whoo, and you're like, for me, I'm drunk because I just had like 3 beers, and like, oh, and so I did this like 3 or 4 times, and then I started bringing my friends down to do it, and I just like I got hooked, and I had access to these peppers, and um, yeah, so I that's that, that's just kind of how I got excited into it. It was total accidental. Um, and then so now, so yeah, no, so now I got into the Carolina Reapers, and I fuck with those, and there's all sorts of different ones, as you probably know, like that they've crossed. There's this one I'm interested in. I just got, is called Big Mustard Mama. You know, um, there's like, yeah, there's different varieties and categories and where they come from, just like with weed. And so I'm kind of getting back into it and learning more about it. I know I like the fruitier peppers, like I like the Scotch bonnets and the habaneros and the ghost peppers. Really have this fruity, peachy kind of flavor, as opposed to like the Carolina Reaper kind of loses flavor in some of the heat. I feel like, so you're on mute.
Habaneros, hands down my favorite overall, like sauce pepper. Uh,
Yeah.
Garlic habaneros, perfect. The heat, there's sweet heat flavor there. The flavor's still there, but you're
Yeah.
right. You're right. With some of the peppers, it could be straight heat and not a whole lot of flavor there. It's hard to figure out necessarily what the draw is for me. Um, why I like I yeah I love that hot shit. As bad as it has tortured me from end to end there, I will still go back. And
Yeah.
it's funnier is nowadays I use the bald head as like the heat index. So
So if you get red.
now, well, red can be part of it, but it's more of like the bead. You know what I mean? Like a light, like little bit of that shit. You get a full like Rain X kind of look going. Yeah, it's pretty hot, full straight, just yeah, it's off the chart there, but
That's funny.
definitely use the dome as a heat scale for sure.
Man, I got some good sauces in at that Sun Cup. I brought back some Jamaican mushroom, one that was really good. What else was there? A Butch Trinidad one. I brought out a pizza the other night with my brother-in-law. We ate like two half jars, just like I was up all night.
Yeah, I definitely enjoy some good stuff. It's funny that we talk about why we pull into this. At one point, Angel Smiles in chat there was kind of wondering why I chase the hot things that I do, and looked into it and found out that one of the things that like I'm messing it up.
Capsation. There you go.
Thank you. uh, does for us is it aids in our diabetes, help us deal with our insulin a little bit. So is it one of those things that we can pull forward as a natural remedy, as we do salts, sugars, or we listen to our body, and that's one of the things we crave is our
I just looked over. Um, I brought this to Michigan. This is honey that is infused with rosin, um, and Carolina Reapers.
holy shit.
Yeah, I know it's the same concept. Like, it's when you have it in the honey, it's not as hot on the mouth, so you don't get that visceral experience, but you get the medicinal experience of having it in your body. Um, I think there's something to it. It's definitely extremely anti-inflammatory, with the rosin, and so this is like something I would have in the evening to go to sleep, and like want to like kind of help me through the night type thing.
So let's venture down that a little bit. Last time again we talked, it was you were just trying to get your RSO, or you just got some RSO onto the market. how are things in that revenue? I like say, is that like available where you are?
No, no, I kind of that was I did a couple runs of that, and um, I don't have the equipment to do it at the scale that needs to be done, and so I was relying on other people, and that's just never worked out. In the numbers, I'm not a big enough organization. I'm just one dude to be able to like lose that sort of cut, type deal. And so that's kind of as the hash scene popped back up, I veered my energies towards that and towards rosin. And then about 2 years ago, year and a half, 2 years ago, 2 summers ago, I uh, realized that rosin vapes were pretty big deal, going to be a pretty big deal. Like I'm not really interested in smoking vapes. It doesn't really meet the needs that I have. But it's a really nice tool that I love to have, and I would remiss to not have that in my toolkit when I travel, when I'm at whatever different events that are hard to consume at, you know. And as I have kids, that's those are it's not as easy just to like pull over and whatever, just smoke a doobie, like you have a kid's birthday party or kid's birthday party, like to have a little vape thing I can just like walk around the corner and hit a couple hits is like fucking lifesaver sometimes. So I bought a bunch of those pods because I wanted to demo with it and fuck with it, right, and check it out, like. And so I this fall I had some extra material and I decarbed it at a low temp. I did 150 for 36 hours. Um, and then I actually added terpenes back into it that I bought. I bought cannabis derived terpenes. So I was the same concept that you were talking about earlier. I didn't have the tool set or skills at the time to take the water from the freeze dryer and reduce that down basically into just pure terpenes and added it back in. So I bought someone else's cannabis terpenes to add back into my shit to fuck with for this experiment. And so once I had done that, hit the thing like, holy shit, that's good. This is awesome, cool. Oh, I should put it in the honey, because I have also been fucking with honey for a while. I had seen the first time I thought about honey and cannabis, I was a Dragonfly Earth Medicine video where they had a jar full of buds and they poured honey right under the buds, and then you read the blurb in the bottom. It's like, yeah, turn it upside down every once a day for 2 or 3 months, and the honey will extract the cannabis. You can filter the cannabis out, and you'll have cannabis infused honey. I was like, cool, that sounds awesome. I'm doing that. I did that, and that was really great. I've done that like every year since, probably 5 or 6 years. I really, it's just part of my yearly routine. I take a handful of jars, and then I use that honey at night to go to sleep. I make a hot toddy. I call it a hot toddy. It's really just honey and lemon and hot water. Sometimes I'll have some bourbon. Mostly it's just that to go to sleep. And anyway, so when I made the rosin, I was like, oh, I got to put that in the honey. I tried that. I was like, oh, that's way better than what I was doing with the flower. And I've also infused it with RSO. I've done it with distillate in the past, which is not preferred, obviously, along the process. But my favorite by far is the rosin, the decarbed rosin, because you decarb it first, and then you're just whipping it into the honey, and so then I did one batch with Thai chilies and one batch with the Carolina Reapers. Um,
I've never tried it. I've seen it too with peppers and some of the honey there.
Dude, I would have given you one, man. I didn't know you were into peppers.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I'm interested now. I will next time I see some hot honey. I'll give it a shot just to.
Yeah. No,
Sometimes
so look at me. I'm a
sometimes you
dork,
just
dude.
need a
There's another
little.
one right here. This one isn't infused with cannabis. This is just habanero and onions.
What? Really?
Yeah, I'm a dork, dude. I just like look over. I'm like, oh, there's more honey.
Well, I would have never thought about it, the honey in there, but or the onion rather. Honey's great for you though. I don't think a lot of people actually realize the healing powers and benefits.
Yeah.
So you know what makes me think about the honey thing as you're talking about is at one point I seen somebody sent Red Pill sent me a link on the honey that I forget there's a special name for it, but it's a hallucinogenic honey. The
Oh
bee.
yeah.
So do you think at some point somebody or once we get to a large scale farming of cannabis, somebody will actually like farm bees in the center of that, and then as you get like wildflower honey and stuff like that, you'll just get a cannabis or hemp
I
honey.
hope so. You have to do it with the males. I saw an article. I don't even know. I don't remember where this was. This was years ago about some dude that was running males and running bees, and I was just like, that sounds so delicious, you know. But they need the pollen, and so who's got the fucking the time and space? And we don't want to see any of that hemp bullshit. Like, run us some fucking OG Kush, motherfucker. Like, you know what I mean? Like, let's do this. Like, how dope would that be? Like, 5 acres of just like Kush males just get honeybees. Oh my gosh,
Would be pretty awesome.
you would have to charge so much. How much do you think that you would be willing to pay? God, dude, like
I
just
think
a novelty. I'd be like, I'll give that guy $200 for this 3 ounce jar.
there might be something there. I mean, what do you think that, like, say, a male would offer outside of, like that? That would bring.
There's things that are offered. Generally people think sensimia, the general understanding, and I'm not contradicting this. Sensimia produces better female flowers, more resinous. We know this, but they don't sift the males in traditional cultures, hash cultures. Just like we were talking about earlier, how they're really growing for food and seed. They want those males there. What? And so I make seed, and there's seed in everything that I have, because I'm always making seed, and I'm not growing for flower to sell flower. That wouldn't work. But when I make hash, and this has just been a thing for me now for 4 or 5 years, but I hadn't really thought about it too much. But some folks got to experience my hash that were from other cultures, and and then when we told them that it was not sensimia, they were like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense. That's why it's so good." Type thing. We're just like, "What? Is there's something that we don't understand about this?" And I guess there was like there's a complexity to it, diversity of effect, where you might not get as much resin, but it's a different type of resin. When the seeds are in there and it's pollinated. I mean, that's all I can really say about it, because I'm not sitting down like smoking side by side, and maybe I should do that, but
There's something completely to what you're saying there. Right before our last episode, I indeed talked to Kaya, and we were talking about
he was a part of that experiment with me, so him and I are on the same page with this.
he looked at me sideways when I said something about this because he was like, "We just made some award-winning hash, and it was made out of seeded shit." So, and you know what's funny about this is, lately I there's some great people in chat have sent me some links. DJ Short's been talking a little bit about this, how the female when it makes seed is putting together different chemicals, and I'm like, I've been same thing.
Yeah.
And I really believe whatever that is what we're talking about when we think about today's cannabis, yes, it is somewhat the THC factor, but I think it is moreover that we're used to seeded weed back then. All the weed that when we think about it, when we were kids, we were pulling seeds. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So in fact, I think there is something maybe for more fat, more lipids, something. There's something in there, a different, maybe it's G, whatever that molecule, there is 100% something, a different process going
That'd
on.
be a fun experiment to do. It wouldn't be that hard, obviously, just to run two site, in the same. You could run them in pots, seed one, that's pollinated outside, spray it down, like do a very simple, very solid experiment in the same room, and then get them both COA'd. You know,
I'd be interested 100% in seeing
it's
those.
COA'd, and then also to do a human test. A blind human test over like a number of people, right? Because the COA can only tell so much.
It's got to just like a female, a woman female when she's carrying about a baby, her body's putting together all kinds of different chemicals that a normal female wouldn't be putting out. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
A whole different thing. So why wouldn't that apply to cannabis? I agree. I'm right there with you. I'm glad again. One of those things. I'm glad it's you were. I'm not the only one that's noticing shit like this. That's fucking awesome.
yeah, that's funny.
So are you so is that now like a underlying I'm making my hash nothing out of but you know what I
No, I'm not there yet. I'm
mean?
not. I'm not saying. You know what I mean. I'm not like saying like, oh, it's better because it's got the seeds in it. Someone else said that of of what we made, um, and and so but because I've been smoking predominantly seeded weed and hash because of what I'm always doing. Right now I have a totally seedless grow room, and I'm just like, this is gonna be epic. You know how fast we're gonna be able to roll doobies.
How long have you been?
It's been a while, man. Like a couple of years, easy. I haven't grown sensimilla for a minute. Yeah, and even like because even like so I'll be like, all right, this is a hash crop, but I want to pollinate this one thing, and then there's just always seeds everywhere. You know what I mean? Like you can't contain it. I have no males on this property right now, um, which is the first time in a very very long time that I've had no males. So
So is this gonna be the switch over into the fem line now that all the males are gone?
I actually am interested in doing fem work. I'm about to feminize the bicket for Nick, the bicket that he made, which is a GMO cherry pie, um, accidental fem, herm, the cherry pie hermed onto the GMO, and that's how the bicket was made. And I want to start messing with it. I haven't really done. I've done a couple failed attempts, but there's, you know, um, the just the work that I've seen people do. It's a jump step in the process to get closer to the result. And clearly the result is flavor. It's not to say that the result does not affect. It's just that the effect is so driven by the flavor and the aroma. It's everything we've been talking about. The complexity is what drives me. It's even to the point like I love GMO. I'm not kicking GMO out of bed any day, but it's kind of one dimensional. You know what I mean? And someone was asking me this in a live this morning, I think, about GMO, Medellin, and the Bicket. They were all very similar, and the GMO is garlic, mushroom, onion. Those kind of that's how I perceive it. It's that kind of like it's not super gassy. When you add the cherry pie in there and go into the Bicket, it picks up the gas and a little bit of cherry, and it gets more complex, but it still has that over the top garlic, mushroom, onion. And then you go into the Medellin, and it gets more gassy than the bigot does. It's more chemical, you know. Uh, and I like the more complex stuff. Is generally what drives what gets me excited. Is just like not understanding what the flavor is. Like, oh, is that this? And hit again, like, oh no, it's not that. It's that. It's I don't know that. It just you know, it's fun.
I enjoy that. And that's so that tells me, or I like to think that tells me that you prefer your cannabis a little bit on the fresher side. Uh,
Yes, sir.
you know, because you to me the curing thing, there's different reasons why you could cure. I think a lot of times I think people don't necessarily somebody tells me they like a long-term weed, I'm like, man, you don't necessarily like straight up THC. You're letting it cure and age and turn into a different molecule. And then the initial flavor you've turned into like a gym bag effect. You've taken all the terpenes, mixed them up, and made one. I like the fresh cannabis, like you're saying. I like to be able to, on that inhale, be able to taste one thing, let it sit on my tongue, and like, that's something else. And then be like you're saying, confused on that exhale one more time and be like, shit, there's something else right there. All right, yeah. Yeah. And I think that only comes from a fresher cannabis that you can play with that, full palette of the terpenes that are in that cannabis.
Yeah, you nailed it. It's the lasagna effect, right? So the lasagna the second day,
Mm,
after it's been in the refrigerator all night,
hmm
it's the flavors have melted. When at first you have it, it's like, oh, there's the cheese, there's the sauce, you know, there's the oregano. I agree, man. I like the. In fact, there's a sweet spot in the drying process. Like that. Well, there's when you say cure, you mean long term cure, and I agree with you. In the drying process, I use the word cure for better or worse to say like the part after I put it in the bag when I'm burping it till the point that it's ready to be smoked. And in that process of after it's come off the sticks, it's in a bag or container, but it's not ready to be smoked. There's a as it's kind of waxing and waning in moisture, there's a point in there or two that if you hit the doobie right, man, it's the best fucking doobie that you'll ever have. Like, and then has to go and has to dry out another like 4 or 5 more days to really even out and be better again because it won't burn the next day. But there's a point in there where it'll burn, and it's just like the freshest, flavor. It's really fun.
That to me, I think that phase you're talking about is when it's drying and it's that first crispy, you can smoke it phase.
Yeah,
You-
that's what I'm talking about. They're just the very beginning. And tomorrow you may not be able to smoke it. It might be
Yep.
too wet tomorrow.
Yeah.
But right now you can smoke it.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that. Yeah, 100%. I like to play this like a little game when I'm lucky enough or yeah, something new to the garden. I've just either pulled down or I've been blessed enough to again play in one of these cups a little bit and get a judge pack. I like to enjoy and involve some friends, some loved ones, whatever. And then, but I like to do this with the samples. I pass it around, but nobody's allowed to say shit because I believe that once something said, it's pre-programmed or you've created a bias. So we all pass it around, and once it's gone around, then it's like the rock paper scissors. 1, 2, 3. What was it? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And
Raspberry, strawberry, great.
it's always interesting to see that variety people's brain comes up with. You know what I mean? And then again, how the input can sway. because there'd be like that one person that says something and it'll make everybody else in the room kind of reconsider what they just said and go, oh, okay, I can see that. But in the same aspect, I found that, you know what I mean? That everybody else's will sway that guy's. You know what
Right.
I mean?
I
Yeah,
love that. That's my wife's got a really good palate. Uh, and that's what we love to eat together. We enjoy eating and smoking weed together, and she's always the first one that I'm like asking, because for me, I'll be like, you gotta try this, I can't. I'm so exuberant, I can't even hold my words in, like I want to be like, don't say anything, don't tell her what it tastes like, but then I would be like, it tastes like, I'll just say it, and then she'll be like, I can see why you'd say that, but I taste this, and I'd be like, wow, you're right, and like, and then I get a better expression. We'll talk about it for a minute, and then we'll kind of like settle in on like, you know, the thing, and it's fun. I don't know.
it is fun to kind of discover things on a multi-person level, you know what I mean, and get a consensus together or a different field together or what it is. That's awesome that you guys share those moments, by the way. Things.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that's really what got me into like breeding. It's and I've always kind of been selecting genetics. Like someone will hand you a clone, or you'll go get a one, and you'll judge it against what you have and get rid of it, or whatever. That like it's always been exciting to me, but the idea that I could just keep doing this, like keep open growing seeds, and walk around every day and smell these plants and smoke these plants and make choices on what I like, and share that with other people. It's like what you were saying earlier. I like it was I appreciate that you went back and listened to the other video. It makes me feel good, and also just like when you said that my intention to keep it small, like it has been that, and it's about connection. Really, because I think that things get diluted past a certain size. Whatever that kind of goes across the board in most things. It's hard to keep integrity or to keep quality or whatever past a certain size. And I just, like I was saying, if I could have just people swing by my house or make appointments and come by, and like I could smoke them out, and have them smell the flowers, and walk through it and hone in what somebody really, really wants, so that they go home and they're really, really stoked. Like, and they get paid for that. Like, holy shit. Like, that's the dream.
That's fucking beautiful right there, brother. You know why it's beautiful? Because I challenge you, motherfuckers. Fuckers, whatever. They know around here that's a term of endearment for me. I got, you know what I mean? That's a buddy term. Fed and fence. I'm sorry. But I
No,
challenge
you're good.
you guys to go back and watch his last episode, because them words, them almost exact words he said 3 years ago where he wanted to be. Same exact words. That's all I want to do is enjoy it. I mean, verbatim, verbatim. That's
Yeah,
what
bro.
3 years. Verbatim, word
It's
for
gonna
word.
happen.
You watch that episode. Yeah. So that tells me that's awesome. Your goals hasn't changed in your ethics. Your heart's still in the same place as it was.
For better or worse,
Yeah. Yeah, right. But that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
I
100%.
appreciate that.
Yeah. Cheers to you for keeping it 100% what you wanted. That's awesome. You get everything out of that. It comes to that,
I
you
mean,
know.
I got 95% of it. Um, there's some things I'd like to improve, in my life for sure. But I'm really, really happy and really, really blessed, bro. I'm allowed to grow the plant legally. It's not perfect. I got a lot of complaints about it, but um, I get to grow as many as I want within my square. And I got a piece of property that I own, and I have a house and two beautiful children and a wife and a dog. Like, fuck, I live by the beach in the mountains. I don't know, man. Like I can get down on myself, but I really do. I'm really stoked. I'm really fortunate, and I try not to take that for granted.
Awesome, man. I think that's one of the biggest things cannabis offers us, and is, even in that process, offering us is, a better quality of life. If you're using it recreationally or growing it, whatever, it provides a better quality of life, 100%. It takes the stress out of it, and on every level, it offers more and more. And, I don't think that's too much to ask, to want to be in a wonderful garden, you know, being down to earth, having good ethics. You know what I mean? What is wrong with having, a great quality of life, through a plant? I don't
Yeah.
see the harm in that, to be honest with you. What are you smoking? Have I even asked you what you smoking
This
there?
is cheetah piss root beer freeze. It's a a bag of mixed phenos. Um, I made two selections from this run. I'm pretty excited about. It's really potent, and it's got a fruity Z thing to it, a Skittles thing to it. You know, not that where the Skittles has that soapy background, but the fruity thing up front. This has the fruity thing up front, but it goes like soda pop, creamsicle, almost like fruity creamsicle, in the background. Like that when I whiff the bag, sometimes I get a little root beer flavors. Most of the time when I smell it, I get a fruity flavor. Um, but it's really potent and nice, and yeah. What are you smoking?
Grape gas.
Grape gas.
No purple, light gas, light gas. Not too bad, but tasty. Yeah.
Nice.
I can't wait to get back to when I'm smoking my own grown cannabis, my friend. It's been long
Yeah.
to do.
Did you have to tear down your garden? What was the cause? Did you move?
Yeah, I moved. I had a huge change of life. Huge change of life. I had to tear down the grow, moved, so many different factors. I went Forrest Gump. I'm still kind of Forrest Gumping it for a while. All the time that I used to spend in the grow, I turned around and started spending running.
Nice.
And I'm still running up, after
I was
we're
gonna
done.
say you look fit. You look like you're in good shape.
I'm training for a marathon.
Oh yeah.
In July, I'm gonna try a marathon. Last year, I ran a 10-mile race and a couple of small guys, but I'm, I'm hooked with the way it, just like anything else, way it makes me feel. Kind of pushing myself to the you're an ex rock climber. I ain't gonna tell you shit about that adrenaline.
Well, I'm super overweight, and I've been drinking a ton of beer. I'm drinking beer tonight, but I've actually been on the process of running myself and just getting myself into it. I need to make that big change in my life. I've been cutting back on the beer big time, and just like, all right, dude, you got one life. You can't live this life fat.
Well, they're easy goals to achieve, man. It's just getting out there and doing it, man. And I'm sure you'll get back to wherever you want
Yeah.
to be, friend.
But
Yeah.
doing a marathon, that's a lot of work, man. It takes a long time to get to that level, because I have been at that level of fitness in my life where I could do those distances. And it took a long time to build up to it. So good work. Congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah, it's been a lot of work and it's been very rewarding on so many levels, to be honest with you. And I've pulled inspiration from a lot of places, and there's a lot of great people in the community that's been running as well. One in particular, there's a guy, Buddha Boy here in chat that ran a few marathons, three, I believe, in 1 year at one point. And it's great to outside of cannabis be able to bond, on another level with some of the
Yeah.
community as well as get some amazing advice. You know what I mean? So it's been a amazing endeavor. I just hope I don't go full Forrest Gump and just run across the country.
Well, bro, I was going to say, if you got that level of fitness, then you can throw a pack on and go spend some 2 or 3 days up in the mountains. And, I don't know if you ever have, but once you get past a certain level, it's the beauty that the world doesn't see, that very, very few people get to see when you get off the beaten track, you know, 4, 5, 6 miles, 20 miles, 30 miles in where nobody is. You get to experience just, I don't know. It's very peaceful. It's very calming. It puts you in your place in the world. Um, and to be able to travel like that, it's such a good feeling. With everything you need, your food and your backpack, and I don't know. You should try something like that, or if you ever want to come out here, bro, I fucking would love to do that. It's I don't know if you ever have, but like if you're in that good of shape now, man, you could do some cool stuff.
Right on. I may take you up on that. It's the one thing that as I get older, I'm opening up to a little bit more travel. That's another thing that, this process has helped me overcome a lot of shit. You know what I mean? Shit you didn't think you could do, you second guessed yourself. It's been a huge confidence builder, this process last year. So, yeah, getting out is part of that process. So I'm hoping to get out to Cali this year at least to Emerald Cup. That's been on thing, and I'd love to run out there. I want to run out to see. Another thing I was inspired by was I ran the 10-mile race, and as I'm standing in line to go to the bathroom, I get talking to this guy in front of me, and this was his 47th uh, race like this, and he had went all across the country. He just like different. I thought, what a fucking great way to get out and see, this great world of ours, and to get out there just like run city to city, race to race. But that'd be cool as hell. So yeah, I want to get out. As I visit different places, I'd like to get out there, do a little footwork, and
Yeah, oh yeah.
shit. So, yeah, I'd be interested. I'd make it out towards you, man. Yeah, we'll go.
We
You
got some cool ground, bro. There, it's really, really beautiful here. Yeah, and that's why it's cool. Like why I like living here is within an hour and a half you can be to all the trailheads, from kind of where we live, and then it's just boom off. They call it like it's like little Chamonix or the Alps because it's so the mountains here are so steep and so aggressive. And the beauty of that is once you get up on top of them, you're like riding ridges. So it's not like you're just like up and down mountains necessarily. You can make a lot of distance on ridge lines, and it just you're in this like I say, sharp, aggressive, snow capped, glaciated, rocky, you know.
There's something majestic about mountains in general. That's, what forces heaved them up to where they are that I don't know. There's just something that makes me feel spiritual about a mountain or stuff like that. And so I can only imagine scaling it, feeling that you're talking about like that.
Yeah.
It'd be pretty special. So Do you have any plans? Are you going to get out and are you going to be anywhere sometime soon here in 24 as we get to the like festival type season?
Yeah, I have tentative plans to do a hash conference in New York, a hash gathering, hash course with Nick from the Rooted Leaf and a couple other folks. We haven't set a date for it. We're kind of aiming for um, end of January, and that's not going to happen because that's way too close. So we're just kind of slowly getting it together, but we've been talking about it. We're pretty serious about it. We've been doing a little promotional, kind of see gauging what people's interests were. So that's potentially on the horizon. Um, as far as me traveling, I have thoughts about going to Cannabis. We'll see. We'll just see how the cards are going. I'm pretty into my garden right now, and stoked to like make a couple moves here. I want to do a big fem seed run of the Becca, like I was saying, in my greenhouse, and see how big I can do that before spring. So that's going to take up a lot of time and probably keep me here. And then I'm like I said, I wanted to do these events, and so that's going to require me to do a lot of work on my property. Got to build a stage and a number of things to do that, and get through some county permitting and stuff like that. So um, I might be kind of home this year. You know, I'm stoked though because I got a boat, just a little aluminum boat. You know, nothing crazy. A little cheap $1,000 fishing boat that me and my kids can go crabbing on. Then we can bounce out to some of the islands, you know, because from where we can live, we can bounce out to all the San Juan Islands and do camping and stuff. And so that's my plan for the summer, is just to be here, grow some good veggies. Probably going to set up a nursery so where the neighbors can come and buy plants. Um, you know, maybe we'll get a home grow law and I can sell plants direct to people, cannabis plants, and then hang with the kids and, you know, work some fem lines and just kind of keep the process going.
That's awesome, man. Fucking don't rush that time. Them kids go up fast, man. That time goes by super fast. Don't rush that time. Cherish that time with
Yeah,
kids 100%.
it's hard. It's awesome, and it's hard too because on one hand, like it's challenging. Young kids, they're challenging. You know, they're a lot of work, and so sometimes you want to just be like, okay, take a break. But at the same time, it's like, damn, dude, what just happened to the last 7 years? And in 7 more years, this dude's not going to want me to be around. You know, he's going to be like over it for a minute. So I do want to cherish it, and you know, like we got fishing poles this year, so it's like let's go fishing. You know, we got backpacks last year. Like I'm on a mission to hang out. You know,
That's awesome. Them are golden moments too. You know, if anything else, those moments teach, you know, that as we talked about a little bit earlier, man, we get a little bit swayed by that mighty dollar a little bit. You know what I mean? And them moments right there are the ones that fill the soul. And that's what, you know, our biggest thing, you know what I mean? We got that happiness right here. Uh 100% as I look back at my life and my raising my beautiful girls there. That's the one thing that if I could change anything, I would change. You know, I made the mistake of working long hours so I could give them material things. When in the end, I think both them and me would have just rather had good time, you know, even if it was just out in nature with that fishing pole. I know that to be true because when I talk to them now, them are the moments that they hold true. Remember when we went fishing? I got a grandson now. I can't wait till you can take little Chase with you, teach him how to fish. You know what I mean? It isn't necessarily the things I can the dollar things. It's the moments, you know what I mean? So don't rush those moments, man.
Yeah.
Those are worth all the dollars. All the dollars you could ever make, man. You can't go back and get those. So don't rush those, man. That's the place where you need to be. And if you can just be happy and get by, that's if you're anything like me, that's all you want.
Yeah. No, it's real. I mean, yeah, me and my wife have chosen to both be around more, so she works part-time and I work part full-time. I take care of the kid while she's working 3 days a week. I'm with the kids those 3 days, and they're full-on days, and so it's nice that I get to participate on my own level with them and not just be like coming home after work, and doing that type of thing. I get to have my own experiences, and when we also homeschool them too, so they're with us all the time, and I don't. I'm fortunate enough. I have my mother-in-law was a Montessori teacher, so she's doing some of the math and reading with my son, and so I don't feel the pressure to have to do that. So I just am like, let's build a chicken coop. Let's get some chickens, and he wants to start breeding chickens, and so I'm like, let's do that. He's like, I can get money. Like he's out figuring it out, like what toys he can buy with the money he thinks he can make selling chickens. And I'm like, let's fucking do it. And he's already calculating and adding. I'm like, this is perfect. Like this is how we learn. Like you're doing far much more learning on trying to protect, figure out what toys you're going to buy right now. And his brain's like mine. Well, he'll just like do that and think and think and think. And so I don't know. I just want to keep doing stuff like that.
That's fucking very admirable right there. Very admirable. Hell
I
yeah.
want to build. I want to build because I've been into the aquaponics. I want to build a skim pool, like a skim board. Have you seen skim boarding? Where they like it's a thin wood board. They do it go on the beach, and like when the tide goes out, and it's just that thin layer of water that you run, and you throw this board on that layer of water and hop on it, and you just kind of glide on it. It's called skim boarding, and then you can kind of hop up in the waves and stuff. So I was thinking of basically building like a trough, that was a pool that was, like 12 inches, 6 inches deep, 12 feet wide by, 50 feet long, that we could just run a continuous pump that would just like put a layer of water that we could skimboard on, and just stuff like that. But use the process of building it to just for him to learn all those things. Like if he could plumb that, what I mean? If
Oh,
he
yeah.
could calculate the water that's needed to move, how much water we need to move to keep it at that level, and what size pump, um, shit, I'd be stoked. I feel pretty proud of myself if he can figure that shit out on his own.
Oh, that life skills right there. That's good stuff, brother. That's really good stuff.
Hey, we're way off base. We're talking about kids now. We're not even talking about weed.
Eh, It's part of it. It's part of it. You know what I mean? That's what always been the concept of the show is not necessarily, it's been cannabis, but to get to know the people, in cannabis a little bit as well. You know what I mean? Once you've made that bond with somebody, what like it's that sub bond that I was talking about that makes you go, yeah, I like that guy a little bit more, man. I didn't know that. You know what I mean? It just, yeah. So it doesn't hurt to get off topic a little bit, right? It can't always be cannabis, can it?
No, I can't. I mean, it's interwoven throughout, but um, it's the whole thing that makes it cool is it changes perspective on all the other shit, and it helps you like realize like, oh, I need to be there with my kids. I want to be there with my kids. I don't, um, I play music. I have to play music too, so it's like it helps me, you know, get into that state of mind and be able to play and like, not be as focused on the headspace, but just move more in the moment and more in my body, you know.
They help bring you back as well too. I mean, I think as we grow older in life, we tend to lose a lot of us, a lot of things about us, our imagination, our ability to just have a creative mind, or we get caught up in that business aspect of life. And sometimes it takes the younger mind to go, hey, remember the simple thing? You know what I mean? It's very grounding. It's an awesome cycle of life. And like I said, man, cherish that time. You know, there'll be the moments, like you said, that where he's in his growing cycle and you may not get that. So yeah, if you can afford it, make it happen. Hell yeah. And I hope that everything that you do, man, I hope that the teaching aspects come through. All the good shit comes, brother. 24, I think it's gonna be a great year. And
Cheers to that.
I think you're gonna get yours, my brother. For sure.
Cheers, bro.
With
Yeah,
that
I'm excited. Oh, go
being,
ahead.
I was gonna say we're almost 3 hours in now.
Is it that late? Yeah. Nice.
Have we do we have we covered a good portion of it? I like to leave a little bit, so I like.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like we hit a lot of things. Before we do hop off, I will if I can throw one plug out there. Um, it just for the support of the fam and myself, and um, in all the stuff that I've been doing, I've hunted a bunch of good clones, and I'm going to make those available. I have before in the past on my website, and same. I was saying earlier on the Patreon, you know, is really where I'm making everything available. So just to throw that plug out that if folks are interested, they could join my Patreon and the links in my Instagram, and from there you'll be able to get a link to get clones. And I have a bunch of good stuff I've been hunted, and stuff of my friends that I've hunted, and I'm going to be bringing some of my friends on that I've been working with and breeding with, and trying to do some interviews and lessons and stuff. So um, I appreciate everyone that's joined and everyone that's like, thanks for having me on. And dude, like it really, it means a ton to me. Like I said, you know, the goal is just to fucking do what we're doing, you know?
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate your time and I appreciate what you do. The links to your Instagram, regenerativeseeds.com, Patreon, my Shopify, and your last episode are all in the description of this episode. So it should be pretty easy to follow along to any of those. So I do appreciate you, and I can't wait to talk to you again. If you are seriously interested in popping on a wormhole and talking some serious organics, I would greatly love that as well, as I'm sure the panel will as well. These days, it's me myself. I should put I'm last. I'm the dumb guy on the panel, by the way. So Smiley, we got Medically Fit, and Carlton from the Pharmacy Seed Network is who's basic, and myself is who's on the organic wormhole there. So yeah, we'd love.
What time do you guys kick it off at?
On Fridays we just moved it to be 8 o'clock my time, so it would be 5 o'clock Pacific.
Okay.
So
how long do you guys go for a while? Because I have my kids to like 6 or 7 Pacific. So I might pop in a little bit late if you guys are still going.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Cool.
That'd be awesome, brother.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks again.
Right on. Thank you very much for hanging out this evening, giving us a little bit of update. For the rest of you guys, thank you for your time as well. Most importantly, don't forget to do something nice for somebody. Random acts of kindness do save lives. And with that being said, thank you one last time. Have a great night, my friend.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.